This holiday season, visit Boot Barn for top-quality gifts that pay tribute to the lasting heritage of the West. From handcrafted cowboy boots and American-made felt hats to leather jackets, our in-store experts will help guide you as you shop, assisting with boot fitting and providing complimentary hat shaping. This holiday, share a piece of the American spirit. Boot Barn. Unwrap the West.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's Conversational Radio Show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
This is the Trump country. We live in the Southeast. We drink sweet tea. We don't drink socialist Kool-Aid.
A better looking person than Kamala.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, and a Happy New Year.
Joey Clark.
Welcome into the program here on a lovely Monday here in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm your host, Joey Clark. Eddie Bader in the studio as, well, usually. I was about to say as always, but sometimes he's got other things to do. But how you doing today, Eddie?
Pretty good. How you doing, bro?
I'm all right. And joining us, he's a returning, now regular guest on the program. We have Troy Carrico in the studio. Troy, how you doing today, sir?
If I were you better, I'd be twins, brother.
Oh, right. So, what's on the agenda today, gentlemen? Oh, I know. And thank you for this, Mr. Carrico.
Yes.
We're going to be having on Luis Elizondo at a little after the 1 o'clock hour begins here, our time, to talk about, what's going on in the skies of America. Yeah. The drone sightings continue all over the country. And the government's explanation, especially that interview Mayorkas gave on Sunday, was not very, didn't warm my heart. It didn't make me feel warm and fuzzy and safe.
Not at all. Like
the U.S. government's on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't make me feel that way at all. So I would love to get Lou's insights about all that. But of course, Mr. Elizondo is the author of a book that's now out. You can get it on Amazon called Imminent, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Written by the former head of the Pentagon program investigating UAPs. It's a #1 bestseller, New York Times bestseller, Amazon bestseller. And so I'm really looking forward to Luis Elizondo's insights about that. And you and Lou go way back, right, Troy?
That's true. Yeah, we do. We met, let's see, it would have been in 2003. And I spent 4 years in a program called the Great Skills Program, which he'll talk about a little bit. We always joke it was called, Eddie, the not so great skills program, because of you're thinking of a really high end CIA, DIA, operative group, but we had a bunch of misfits. It was like the Island of Misfit Toys, if you want, from the Christmas special. But at any rate, we go back and we've stayed in touch. We've worked on some small projects when we were both doing independent defense contracting. He's a good friend and someone who I am honored to know, because he is very inquisitive and he is always on the right side of everything. So I think you'll enjoy him. Man of great character. And he's actually excited, Joey. He's actually excited to be on here.
I'm excited.
Yeah, he's fired up. So
so before we talk to Lou about this, what's our idea about the drones? Eddie, what do you think at this point? Because there's a few different theories out there.
I honestly think it's something our government is doing, or otherwise there'd be a little bit more call to shoot them down from our government.
See, that's one angle, and the more cynical aspect of it is that this is a psyop to get Congress to pass a law that gives them more control over, tighter control over airspace.
See, now that's in the drone world. That's exactly what's happening, Joey. Let me go ahead and tell you. No, that is a lot of people's concern.
Right.
There's drone bans, and there's companies to be banned, and a lot of people see this as just kind of reverse operation.
And then there's my favorite was last week when Jeff Van Drew, the congressman from New Jersey, came out and said there's an Iranian mothership.
That was pretty good.
Right off the
That was pretty good.
Well, if the Iranians have that, maybe we should make peace right now.
Jersey Beach could run them off.
Like, what in the world? But one that came out, it was a CEO of a drone company. He came out and this video went viral. Yeah, and it's this idea that they're looking for lost nukes, essentially.
Yeah.
Or maybe broken arrows like in the old days. I don't know.
Possible. My thoughts are a little. I spoke to. Spoiler alert. I spoke to Lou on last night and the night before, and he's been detailed to work on this drone, this pandemonium that's going on, for the lack of a better term. And his take was. And I said, Lou, I know it's a state actor, right? He goes, it is a state actor. He said, and possibly two. And I said, what else? He goes, well, this is where it gets weird. He said, there is some other phenomenon going on, kind of co-located with it when it does, that is not, they think, of this terrestrial origin. So I don't know what that means, but he said, I'll talk as much as I can about it. So yeah, it's there's something going on that's even is actually trumping, for lack of a better term, what's going on. And then you saw Trump today came out and said, "Oh, the government, they know what's going on."
Right.
They know what's going on.
He didn't seem too worried about it. No. So here's the official, though, voice of power in this Homeland Security Secretary.
Oh boy.
Alejandro Mayorkas. Let's listen into Alejandro, what he had to say on the Sunday shows.
Are there any legitimate national security concerns here? For example, have you seen?
By the way, hold on.
He was he just involved in a lawsuit?
Yeah, that little elf, Georgie Stephanopoulos,
$15 million elf, baby.
$15 million to Trump because he said Trump's liable for rape.
Yep.
He kept saying it
like 10 times.
I think I said
And right. ABC apparently like, we're not even fighting this. You're wrong, George. Yeah. You screwed up, George. So I guess.
Yeah.
Wonder if that came out of his pocket. Or the company's pocket.
Company's pocket, I bet. But I think he disappeared from social media this week.
Oh.
I bet he...
Interesting.
And then I saw MSNBC piped in and said, we're very disappointed. And you said, sure you are. Sure you are.
Okay, let's see what these yahoos have to say.
All, especially in these recent sightings in the Northeast, of any kind of foreign involvement.
We have not seen any foreign... We know of no foreign involvement with respect to the sightings in the Northeast, and we are vigilant in investigating this matter, the Department of Homeland Security, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the lead.
But there have been concerns in the past. In fact, a Chinese national was arrested in California this week, allegedly for flying a drone over Vandenberg Air Force Base. Last year, you had drone flights over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, over a nuclear facility in Nevada. So what is the national security concern right now?
Well, when a drone is flown over restricted airspace, we act very, very swiftly. And in fact, when an individual in California flew a drone over restricted airspace, that individual was identified, apprehended, and is being charged by federal authorities. And so we act as swiftly as possible when an individual does fly a drone over restricted airspace and violates the rules. You know, there are, George, more than 1 million drones registered in the United States.
These aren't registered.
That's an awful lot, but bottom line is...
God, who's buying this explanation from these guys? It just, come on. But here, let's finish.
You're saying Americans have nothing to worry about?
Look, it is our job to be vigilant in the federal government with our state and local partners on behalf of the American public, and we can assure their safety by reason of that vigilance. We've deployed personnel, technology, and if there is any reason for concern, if we identify any foreign involvement or criminal activity, we will communicate with the American public accordingly. Right now, we are not aware of any. If we become aware of any, we will communicate accordingly.
Don't believe what you see up there, boys.
It's just stop looking up. That's what my message to Americans. Stop looking up. Stop filming these things. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to keep us talking about it and to continue to make us look up.
John Kirby said the other day, I don't know if you saw, he said, this is posing no threat to the America. Well, first of all, they penetrated airspace that you can't control or even understand. That's a big threat. Okay.
Now, have y'all seen Trump's theory on what's going on?
Oh yeah, I love that. That was my favorite.
Love it.
That was my favorite.
Folks are just listening. It's an AI rendering of Chris Christie with way too many McDonald's hamburgers.
Drone deliveries.
And it's all these drones delivering him more Mickey D's.
That's great.
People are like, oh, that's so mean. Do you know how far back Chris Christie and Donald Trump go?
Way back.
This is like old buddies, making fun of each
They're
other.
busting each other's chops. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, but I think that's just fantastic. That's Trump.
I just think it's funny though that they chose New Jersey as the center of interest.
Yeah, like, why New Jersey?
That's what I'm asking. I don't know. Maybe
Well, and then you get into the UFO connections. It was reported a bunch of these are seen over Wright-Patterson.
Yeah,
and
just over the weekend, Wright-Patterson. Which what's fascinating about that, Eddie and Joey, is that it is rumored, and Lou can talk about this. I grew up right outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, out in Montgomery County, and it was always rumored when I was growing up. And then it was confirmed later in Project Blue Book and in some other studies, and that biologics and or materials from the Roswell crash site were transferred at the time to Strategic Air Command's headquarters, which was in Dayton at Wright-Pat. So I said, I wrote Lou and I said, bro, they're breaking out their buddies. They're getting them out of jail. And he said, no, they're coming back for their toys. He said,
yeah, friends from out of town are back again. Yeah. And it just does. It's like when you start to see all these lines cross, you're okay, that's almost too good of a story.
Well, now, I think I read 10 different stories over the weekend of different people seeing drones, even here in Alabama, of people seeing drones at night. And then there was one that supposedly crashed, which was great. It was on Twitter, a drone crash. They made a big deal out of it, and it was literally a little hobbyist.
Well, and you literally, again, you're not just a hobbyist. You have a license. You know how to fly a drone.
Yeah, I ain't flying right now, though.
Right. But, I mean, when people say, oh, it's just a hobbyist or it's some 15-year-old kid or maybe it's one Chinese guy outside a military base, it's like that doesn't fly.
It doesn't.
You know what's funny is a couple of things. I became aware of real drone potentiality for what it's doing now in terms of a threat to our infrastructure and to our people. About 12 years ago, the drug cartels were rigging hand grenades. This was like very early stage stuff, and they were dropping grenades onto meth labs of competitors and stuff, and cocaine labs. And I thought, wow, if you take a bigger drone and you arm it at a sporting event, you could kill a lot of people. And that's what the big threat is hey, here's the thing. How many anti-drone devices do you think are in play at the Super Bowl or at the national championship? You would like to think a lot. Jamming and or short-term missiles, short-range missile systems. The thing about it is I just want to share this story. It's a personal story. Robin and I were down in Destin recently in the past year, and I'm out on the balcony. We're on the 7th level, and I noticed these lights that are hovering down along the water. And I'm thinking, that's weird. Then I go in, I get a cigar, I drink, I come out into the patio. The drone is hovering right in front of our window, and it's about 20 feet away.
Yeah. So
I grabbed a can of Coke that was up there, and flung it at it, and it flew off. And then I also shot at the bird. But
maybe that one was me.
But I told Robin, and Robin goes, "That's scary. That's scary that people are creeping around."
Oh yeah, people do it all the time, man. I've got great video of sharks out in the ocean. I fly them off the balcony.
I've seen
literally
that. I've seen that.
Now, so far the good news is you can hear most of these that are commercially available, you can hear it coming.
Sure.
Very distinct noise.
That very high pitch.
Yeah, my dad also has one about the same professional grade, and he was using it for my niece's first birthday. And I'm like, when I went outside and he's using it, I'm like, what is that sound? He's like, I got it up.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. And it's amazing. He was showing me how it can be automated. Like, it's pretty remarkable.
You can do the
just what's commercially available.
Yeah, you can get the quieter props and all that. It's not near as noticeable, but.
So I had got a text yesterday about this too. I thought you'll find it interesting. Is Sergeant Major Brian Battaglia, who co-authored an article that we wrote in 1819. Great American, one of the senior NCOs in the entire Department of Defense, working on the Joint Chief of Staff. Very, very accomplished. He sent me a text and he goes, "What's the over/under on some Alabamian calling in on the show and saying, I've got a 12 gauge goose gun. What, just birdshot. What's my kill ratio on that?" And oddly enough, there is a shotgun shell called Skynet.
Huh.
And it is for the larger of the two rounds, and it will go 50 to 60 feet and cast a net about 8 to 10 feet wide.
Yep.
So you can tangle up the drone and drop it.
Yeah, immediately.
But they're telling you don't do that because, you're violating FAA stuff. But
well, and I guess the U.S. military claims to have direct energy weapons.
They do.
That can
They
knock this stuff
Knock it
down.
right out.
So,
but it doesn't take much. Literally, like you were talking about the drone that's off your deck. You seen that wasp spray you can hit from 10 feet?
Yeah, foaming.
It'll sink it like a rock, baby.
well, I will say, I'm glad we're learning about drones in America this way, as opposed to how they're learning about drones, say, in Ukraine.
Absolutely. Listen, the learning curve is much more forgiving here.
Yeah, much. We can actually have fun with it here and have mean tweets and memes posted by Donald Trump, the president-elect himself. As opposed, you can find a lot of videos of how the Ukraine war is going down, and it's pretty gnarly. If you don't want to see awful things, don't look it up.
Well, I can tell you this: that the Department of Defense is studying. Let's be honest. What's the best laboratory for the defense industry? Combat zones, right? So a lot is going on over there right now. I know for a fact that DARPA, the Defense Acquisitions and Research Project Administration, is very active right now in counter drone. And one of the things that I think the Ukrainians have led the charge on is they are able to overcome frequency and power and send it back to the sender with a
return to sender, baby,
with a thank you bomb. So yeah.
Well, we got to hit a break here in a second, but first, as part of the program, brought to you by Pest Pro Services. And they're at Pest Pro. Ashley and that great team are ready to help you with any and all of your pest control needs. It could be emergency rush job, especially if the in-laws are coming to visit for Christmas. And you know your mother-in-law. She gets mad when you don't fluff the pillows correctly, let alone ants in the kitchen or a cockroach in the guest room. So why not, if you don't want that hassle at all, have Pest Pro come out and just double check before the in-laws show up for Christmas. Or it could be you're just looking for a great everyday pest control company that has your back, and it's also local, great local folks. So when you spend your money with Pest Pro, it's staying here in the local community. So check them out today. That number, 265-9990. That's 265-9990. Or you can always go to ppsriverregion.com or just search Pest Pro Services on the Book of Faces. When you want to know, call a pro. Pest Pro Services. And be sure to tell Ashley and that great team, Joey and Eddie sent you, and also say, Merry Christmas. Let's go to line 3 real quick. Hey, you're on there. Who's this?
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
What's up, Paul?
Right back at you.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Here's a thought. Now, do any of y'all know how thick that the grid is up through New Jersey, through New York, and the airport and all through there? Have y'all ever been up through there?
Yes.
On the turnpike?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's real packed together.
There's a lot of grid area running up through there, which supplies power over to New York City and points beyond. Now, with the grenade thought being used by the cartel, just imagine that these are bigger and can carry a larger payload. If someone is actually up there mapping out the grid, what power goes where, so when they decide they want to take out the power. Now, that's a nasty thought, just in general.
Paul, I work
for electricity. There ain't a whole lot you can do computer-wise either.
Right. Troy, you were going to say something?
Well, I work for the Corps of Engineers on a critical infrastructure identification project, and you're right, Paul. There are 2 nodes that are in that area, one right outside of Philadelphia, one over towards, I believe it, Newark, New Jersey, that if you hit those, Con Edison and that whole East Coast basically goes down. So,
and that's not to mention what the infrastructure we have south of Maryland, D.C., and on the Virginia side.
Well, I just
Not a
love
good
the
thought,
idea
but
that if this is either state actors, other state actors, or if there's an unknown element to this, that they're staying away from the South for the most part.
You know what would happen.
no intelligent life, they say.
He just laughed right out of the sky.
That's not true. It's warmer down here. We're smarter than they are.
Wait, you flew over Huntsville? What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but we know how to use duck blinds.
There we go. Hey, listen, I just asked what type of shotgun shell's best to take one down with the 12 gauge long gun. There you go.
Yeah.
I heard that. I caught that.
Yeah. You've got aliens. We've got duck blinds.
We got duck blinds.
Later, guys.
See you, buddy.
See you, Appreciate it, Paul. 272-9228. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Honey?
Yeah?
Do you think it's safe using all these extension cords?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Actually, too many extension cords can be dangerous. Call Crosby Electric to add new outlets.
Sure is dark in our yard.
Good. We'll sleep better.
Maybe you will.
Crosby Electric does landscaping lighting for beauty and safety, as well as security lighting for peace of mind.
Oh, darn. The vacuum cleaner just tripped a breaker.
Honey, never vacuum while I'm making popcorn.
Tripping breakers can indicate a potential fire hazard. You really should have it checked out by Crosby Electric, serving the river region for almost 50 years.
Sweetheart, are you ever afraid that lightning could damage our electrical system?
Afraid? Come on. No. Maybe we should call Crosby. You know, just give him a call.
Full house surge protection can protect you and your possessions. For an assessment and for all your electrical needs, call Crosby Electric 272-2085 or visit us at crosbyelectric.com.
Hi, this is Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group with your updated end-of-the-year market report for 2024. By the end of this year, the MLS in the River region will have approximately 5,000 home sales closed. Almost 60% of all listings are selling on an average of 60 days or less, which is a good news for a seller and not surprising if you've been looking for a home lately. Predictions through Realtor.com about the coming year will be an overall better year for both buyers and sellers. To buy a home in this market, here's what you will need. Number one, a strong buyer advocate that will find a good selection of homes for you to view now. Number two, someone with a strong negotiation background. Three, someone with over 47 years in real estate concerning contracts, financing options, and closing houses. For the best buying and selling experience, call the expert. Call Bo Goodson at 221-2883 or 551-0225. That's 221-2883, the Goodson Group.
Put the power of Action 8 News in the palm of your hand. Download the free Action 8 News app to stay on top of breaking news wherever you are. Search for WAKA News in your app store to download the Action 8 News app today. Keep your family safe by watching Action 8 News. Look for 8 on Your Side consumer alerts with product recalls involving cars, food, children's toys, and other items in your home. 8 on Your Side, keeping you safe only on Action 8 News.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state, while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
Rich Thomas Weather is brought to you by Clark Heating, Air, and Plumbing. Fall is officially here, and it's time to get your system ready for the winter. Call today about the advantages of the Clark Club membership to be sure you're covered. Call 277-2125 or go to clarkcomfort.com. Better call Clark. Alabama certification number 09098.
Rich Thomas Weather. Our very mild December weather continues. In fact, today and the next couple of days will be warmer than the weekend. I've got today's high right around 73 with a sun and cloud mix. Tonight will be dry in our part of the state. Overnight low temperature very mild, 53. Tomorrow, patchy dense fog early, then look for a sun and cloud mix, very spring-like. Mid-70s Tuesday and Wednesday. On Wednesday, maybe some isolated showers possible and widely scattered showers possible Wednesday night. Noticeably cooler Thursday and Friday with sunshine. 63 Thursday, near 60 Friday. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
At CB&S Bank, we've been meeting the needs of our customers since 1906. Need help setting up new business goals? Our line of commercial loans can help you achieve them. Go to cbsbank.com to find a location near you. All loans subject to credit approval, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Live local talk. The River Region's only 24-hour News Talk FM station. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to News and Views in the afternoon. This part of the program brought to you by Montgomery Men's Health, and they're at Montgomery Men's Health. Well, it's in the name. They're ready to help you men out with your health, and you should make it part of your annual men's health routine, no matter your age. But especially if you're getting 40, 50, but even guys in your 20s, you should make checking your testosterone part of your annual men's health routine. And, well, the folks there at Montgomery Men's Health can help you do just that. They'll do a testosterone-focused lab workup plus a consultation for only $99. Out of that, it's just a quick blood draw, gentlemen. Out of that, you also get a PSA score, which is a great marker for prostate health without them having to do the whole finger wag thing. Less intrusive, let's just say. And if you're really experiencing the symptoms of low T, which is no motivation, energy, or drive, including a decrease in sex drive, unwanted weight gain, loss of muscle mass, and it's not like you're changing how active you are in the day. You're not eating more necessarily, but you're still seeing that. Well, get by there, get that check. And if you do have low T, Montgomery Men's Health has treatments that can truly change men's lives. Men can experience higher energy, better gains in the gym. Brother. Better mental clarity, improved sleep patterns, a faster metabolism, and usually even notice an increased libido. And you can actually book the same day that you call. That number, 440-3663. That's 440-3663. Or go to MontgomeryMen'sHealth.com to book your appointment today. So apparently, Trump did a big press conference this morning. And one of the things that came out of this is Trump negotiating live during the press conference with the SoftBank CEO.
Okay.
And apparently, SoftBank at this point has pledged to invest $100 billion in the United States, 100,000 jobs. And this is Trump's doing.
I see.
But apparently the negotiations left the private confines of a conversation, and it went out public at this press conference. I've actually yet to really hear this, so I'll be watching it and listening in real time like the rest of you. Here's President Trump and the CEO, Masayoshi-san.
That's what it is.
Let's listen in.
To go, and we were discussing, and President Trump said, Masa, double that is not enough. Maybe, go for more, right?
That's all right. I'm going to ask him right now. Would you make it $200 million?
Go ahead.
Believe it or not,
Timing, baby.
Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but, he's now asking to do more. I think, with your leadership, my partnership with you, with your support, I will try to make it happen.
That's good.
All right.
200. He'll make it happen. 200 million investment.
He is a great negotiator.
Wow.
He's a brilliant guy and did an unbelievable job, and the people of Japan and all over the world are very proud of him.
Man, that's just, what a moment. Like, you never saw that with Biden.
No.
You didn't even see that with Obama.
Notice his demeanor. Notice his poise. He is actually Reagan-esque, very Reagan-esque in that. That's the first thing I think of is just that kind of, he's grown into, he's poised to have a very, very successful.
And I really do think that failed assassination attempt changed him.
It
Oh, no doubt.
Mortality visited him.
Like, you saw him on public in public forums making fun of himself, which I don't think I've ever seen him be that self-deprecating as he was in the last leg. I think even like putting on the garbage man outfit, like you never would have seen Trump do that in 2016.
Working at McDonald's.
Right. And it shows how far you can go in this
That's
world,
right.
folks, from garbage man to working at Mickey D's as a cashier to president. But I mean, okay, that's just fantastic.
Love it.
And then Trump also gave a warning to President Biden, telling Joe to stop it. Stop selling my wall away. Let's listen in.
It's terrible. We spent a tremendous amount of money on building the wall. The wall was designed specifically by the Border Patrol because it's very hard to climb. They need to have see-through. They need it to be steel because you can't cut. It's very powerful steel. It's very hard steel. It's a special type of steel, but very, very hard to cut. Inside the steel, as you know, we pour concrete, and that's a grade 10 concrete, which is a very strong concrete, very as though you were building about a 60-story building.
Okay, I got to pause it there because just the little things you start noticing about Trump. Sometimes he is really not great on the details. Like when Joe Rogan asked him, can you prove 2020 was stolen? Trump kind of gave
generalities
and like conclusions, but no detail. But without fail, the old builder in him will come out where he's this particular type of concrete is the greatest concrete you've ever seen, and actually knows what he's talking about. In this
You know what grade 10 concrete is? Real fast. It is the replacement of sand, and it's replaced with dry blast silica pellets, which creates the tensility strength of PSI. Your average concrete is about 7,500, 8,000 PSI. This is like 40, 50,000 PSI.
Wow.
And we found out about it when Lou and I, on a mission in Iraq, found out about these chunks that were coming out of bomb damage on Iraqi bunkers. Well, they had hired a French firm to build reinforced bunkers out of this UHP. It's called ultra high performance concrete. Now it's called grade 10. And it's fascinating because conventional weapons had a hard time piercing it.
Interesting.
So it's something there.
So let's keep listening.
It's very powerful concrete. We've made tremendous technology advances in the word concrete. Who would think that? But I know that from the construction industry. Today, what you can do with concrete is incredible. So we have a very strong concrete. And then we have a rebar. We put rebar inside the concrete. And the rebar, likewise, is very hard to cut. So it's a very expensive process, very expensive wall. And then we put a anti-climb plate on the top. You saw that. And I didn't like the look of it. But then when I watched, we had people testing. We had mountain climbers actually testing. And they were not able to get over the anti-climb plate. So I said, all right, I guess we're going to put it on. That plate on top, which I never loved the look of it, but it works so unbelievably well. You have to do it.
Not a resort.
So we spent a lot of money in building it. And we have hundreds of miles that we put up. A lot of people don't realize, but we did 571 miles of wall. That's why we had such good records. In addition to the fact that Mexico helped us with their military, they kept people out, and they were actually very good under the past leader. But now we ordered an additional 200 miles of wall. It's very expensive, and now it's about double the price of what it would have been 6 years ago. And the administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up.
That's wrong.
And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build, but then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more because it's sort of like water, people flow through, and that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just, as you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, and that's really that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. Time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy had 3 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
And they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it cost us to build substantially. Can you believe it? So they make a deal with the United States to buy it for pennies. And then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
From pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place. Now we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But just think about how ridiculous it is. And this is just people that don't want this country to succeed.
Yeah, and I think Texas is trying to go into the open market and buy up some of this stuff.
Yeah, there.
And so good on Texas and the governor there and the AG. Paxton, that guy is
he's sharp.
Rock star. I think he's got a bright future.
Yeah, I do too.
Nationally. But it's great seeing Trump. He does, to your point, it's Reagan-esque. He does seem very comfortable in his own skin, so to speak. And it I don't know. I really like this. I really like seeing Trump in this mood because I keep saying this transition feels like it's taking forever.
Right.
Like October, November flew by, the end of that election. And, it still felt that way a week or two after the election. But December, it feels like we're trudging through mud.
It's creepy.
Yeah. And it's like too much keeps happening. Too many shoes keep dropping, whether you're talking geopolitics or talking little stuff that is actually big stuff because how much money. Like, them trying to throw a wrench in the gears. Everything the Trump administration wants to do. But, I also love this message of hope. I keep reminding people I know, especially those that aren't big fans of Trump.
Sure.
Like, I said, well, he has a chance, I think, to be world historic. I mean, which means there's a lot of risk. He could screw things up, especially in the geopolitical world. It's always anarchic in a way. You really don't know exactly what's going to happen, despite the best plans. But I try to keep reminding folks, like, say he does pull off a lot of these things. He is going to be president of the United States on July 4th, 2026. Now, what's the significance of that date? Oh, yeah.
That's 250 years.
250th anniversary, our birthday as a nation. And I have a feeling it's going to be one of the greatest, biggest celebrations
Festival
in all of human history for the greatest country in all of human history.
Very powerful.
It's this sort of message that really, does give me hope. Maybe it's just words, but let's listen in.
Yeah.
The golden age of America. I got to hear that again.
But this will be the most exciting and successful period of reform and renewal in all of American history, maybe of global history. The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be. And we hope we don't have any intervening problems because things happen. Like out of nowhere came the China virus. Out of nowhere came other things we don't want to have. When I left, we had no wars. We had no problems. The Middle East was good. We did the Abraham Accords. We did things that nobody thought were even possible.
The golden age of America.
Pax Americana, man.
I love it. Yeah, it's that sort of confidence that is, I think, going to see us through a lot of the challenges ahead. And don't get me wrong, as hopeful as I am, the technological changes, the pathologies that still exist society-wide, like we were talking off-air about men in particular in this country, you start looking at the stats for men who make a median wage. I'll just give you this. 60% of men who make a median wage in this country are married.
Mm-hmm.
That number used to be like 90%. You go down lower to the 25th percentile, lowest 25th percentile, it's even worse numbers. And shocking, it's like women don't want to marry a guy who makes less than them. Number one, and that's just a real thing. But there are a lot of factors, the change in the economy. And when you see there's lack of, households forming, all these, and we could go down the list of other pathologies, problems, say, look at the opioid crisis that still tears through our communities. There's a lot to overcome, but I think if you set the American people free and you kind of inspire them to some great grand goal, like Trump loves doing, I think we'll do amazing things. It won't be perfect. It'll be messy at times, but it'll be something that we'll look back on and be proud of. And wouldn't that be nice? When's the last time you look back at something the nation did. Not, individually, a lot of people do a lot of great things, but something the nation did. When's the last time you look back and were actually proud?
Well, we were talking earlier, Joey, about the founding fathers, John Adams in particular, and you think about the luminaries that were out there. That time has passed, but there is an opportunity to reclaim some of that greater glory. And I think, let's be honest, you've been around the world. There is nowhere better than here. I have been everywhere. And that includes Europe, which has even worse phone service and internet service than my house out in Penlala. But it's one of those things that, Joey, Pax Americana is real. It is golden age is very real. And he's the right guy for it. I think he is. He's a visionary.
Folks, this part of the program brought to you by Sweet Creek Farm Market. Go by and see Reed Ingram at Sweet Creek Farm Market. They're just 2 miles south of Taylor Road on Highway 231, and it's worth the trip because you can, of course, visit their award-winning cafe for lunch, shop for fresh produce, baked goods, and gifts. Reed is always out there looking for the freshest produce there is. It really is fantastic stuff. The baked goods, like the layered cakes they have out there, or the cookies, are just fantastic. Like, I'm normally just a chocolate chip guy, but they do this thing called a swamp cookie where they throw everything in there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a mashup of peanut butter. Is that a raisin? Is that like coconut? Is that chocolate chip? Is like oatmeal? Yeah, what is this?
Wow.
But it's like pretty good in the middle of a workout sort of cookie.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're looking for those stocking stuffers or hard to find gifts, go by Sweet Creek Farm Market. And, of course, they have the largest selection of locally grown pecans, irresistible pecan products, and delicious homemade treats, roasted, salted, honey roasted, classic pralines, chocolate honey baked. I don't even know what that is, and I really want to try it now. Or creamy white chocolate pecans. And they've got a lot of events going on leading up to Christmas. So look up Sweet Creek on Facebook. And, of course, you can pick up your Christmas hams, turkeys, and Boston butts there at Sweet Creek. So, again, go see Reed Ingram at Sweet Creek Farm Market, and be sure to tell Reed and the team that Joey and Eddie, those fellas on the radio, sent you. Got to hit a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Make 2024 the year you break away from the chain stores and join us here at Adams Drugs. We value your business and want to provide you the best customer service at the lowest possible price. We've been serving up excellent customer service here in the River region for over 62 years.
I made the swap to Adams Drugs and I couldn't be happier. Having a job and then getting 3 kids to all of their activities keeps me busy. I don't have an hour to waste waiting on a prescription. At Adams, they know me and my family. I get in and out in minutes, and when I can't get by Adams, they'll bring the prescription right to my door.
What are you waiting for? Come in to Adams Drugs and let us earn your business. Our friendly and personal staff will talk with you and answer any questions you may have about your prescriptions. Your satisfaction is our #1 goal. Visit us at adamsdrugs.net for the location nearest to you. Adams Drugs is your local independent Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, taking the time to listen and care.
Lewis at the Capital Oyster Bar, and I just want to tell you, if you're in business or got an event coming up and want to do some advertising, wisely spent dollars are spent down here at Blue Water Broadcasting. All the guys are nice, easy to work with, and I see results, I guarantee you.
Radio reaches over 90% of everyone in the River region. Shouldn't your ads be out there where your customers are? Call us to find out more. Blue Water Broadcasting. Local folks helping local business.
The Health and Wealth Show. The Health and Wealth Show. The show so nice, we said it twice. Weekday evenings at 6 on News Talk 93.1 WACV. The Health.
Break it up, son. Joke's over, hey?
Before you buy new floors at a discount store and get them installed by the cousin of a friend who does this kind of thing, consider the better option. Prattville Carpet carries the most reputable brands for selection, style, and quality you can trust. And with their non-transferable lifetime installation warranty, you'll never have to worry about hardwood warping or carpet buckling. Your floors will stay as beautiful as the day they installed them.
Hi, I'm Ray Bowles from Prattville Carpet. If you're looking for carpet, hardwood, laminate, vinyl plank, or ceramic tile, call us today for your free measure. Prattville Carpet, we're more than just carpet.
on FM, on your smartphone, and online. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go right to the phones and, excuse me, talk to Austin Baranco with Invista Advisors. Hey, Austin, how you doing today?
Having a great day, Joey. What about you?
Life is very good. And like I was saying earlier, though, I kind of want like this whole Christmas holiday season, like let's get it over with. Let's get to January 20th. Let's swear this guy in because, it feels like it's taken forever. Real quick, we don't have to go into detail. I'm looking at Fox Business right now, seeing Bitcoin over 107 grand is just like, what a crazy world we live in. But beyond just Bitcoin and crypto, what effect do you think the incoming Trump administration will have as the more of his appointments are made, as more of the, say, decisions? It seems like they're saying this is exactly what we're going to do with the economy, with energy, yada, yada, yada. What effect do you think this has, and how quickly do you think this has an effect in the economy?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I kind of am in the same boat as you. I don't ever wish to skip right over Christmas, but as far as managing investments in this current environment, we are at its top, and we're heading into a new year where there's two schools of thought amongst industry professionals, and they are both on the opposite side of the spectrum. So on one side, you have your bear camp, and these bears are saying, we're at all-time highs, every company is overvalued, inflation has run rampant, they're about to have to start rate hikes in the new year. That's going to be bearish for the market. Everyone that's, holding market-linked investments right now is going to get pummeled next year. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the bulls who are saying, AI is just in the first inning, and our ability to grow this thing is just getting started. We're going to run up a lot quicker under Trump. They're taking a look at the SoftBank CEO this morning who unveiled a $100 billion investment in the U.S. They're seeing these, even seeing some articles about, they call it Trump's attacks on electric vehicles to be bigger than thought. And what I am reading between the lines in that space is some of the subsidies for green energy under the Biden administration may be kind of repealed or tamped down on. In my mind, that just means, better government spending regulation there. But all in all, there's two different sides of the coin, and professionals are adamant on both sides that their way is right. So I'd love to get to the Trump presidency, see how he's going to impact markets. But if I am trying to be objective, I'm looking at it and saying that both sides have valid arguments, and the best way around it is to kind of play the middle. Maybe find some sectors where you're not all in on these gassed up names, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla, Google, all these big tech companies that have run up. There's still room for them to continue running up. I would hate to, lose out on a couple more percentages to the upside because I don't hold them. But I do believe when there is a recovery, it'll be pretty swift, maybe lop off 20, 30% of gains in a month or two, and it's going to hurt to be holding that bag. You also can't forget that in January, a lot of companies, make sales and rebalance for the year. They don't want to do it on December 31st because then you got to pay taxes in April. But if you do it January 1, you don't have to pay tax until the following year. So we typically get a pretty sharp sell-off in January of most years. So our committee that met this morning, we're kind of split down the middle, and we're allocated broadly. So I don't think we get beat up one way or the other, but we'd love to have high conviction about one direction or the other. And until we get this administration in office and see how they play ball, it is so hard to tell what direction we're going to go. But that's kind of our thoughts here. I don't want to say one way or the other because nobody knows, but I sure would like to be able to have a little bit more conviction when going into the market and buying. But right now we're really just kind of biding our time and letting this current administration work its way out. But even, like I said, the SoftBank CEO saying he's investing $100 billion and 100,000 jobs in the U.S. is very bullish.
Oh, yeah. Well, and so, I don't know if you saw Trump putting him on the spot at the press conference. Can you make it 200 billion?
200. I saw that. I was cracking up. I was like, you're going to make this guy who's already speaking broken English and, so embarrassed on the national stage. But no, the SoftBank CEO carries big stick as well, and Trump knows it. And, one thing that I think the listeners could cue in on is every administration has a different way of bringing money into the economy, and some of them do it by, stimulus, quantitative easing, kind of the Obama method, and then some of them do it by repatriation, which is kind of the Trump strategy, which is make tax incentives more favorable to corporations to take offshore corporations and bring them here domestically to the U.S. So money that hasn't existed within our ecosystem of economics, but it exists globally, can be brought into the U.S. and taxed in the U.S. Some people think, hey, call the tax rate at 20%. If we cut it to 15%, we're losing out on 5%, tax from corporations in the U.S. I like to look at it from the other end of the spectrum. We're getting 0% taxable income from some of these foreign companies that don't operate inside of our country. If we could get them to move here, 15% of that is a lot better than 0%. And so that's kind of the Trump playbook from his last presidency. I don't know how many of those foreign companies are willing to move domestically to the U.S. under the current conditions, but if he can do a wholesale tax change from the corporate side, we could get a huge boom in foreign dollars coming into the U.S. economy. So I think that's one of the strongest arguments for the bulls going into the new year, because everything else is a pretty bearish look. Inflation is running rampant again. We're having some issues in the jobs market. Credit card spending is an all-time high. Defaults are at an all-time high. All the things that we look for that indicate a recession are there. So if you're not looking at those things and just riding this wave all the way up, I hope you've got some protection in place, because there is, going to be a time where we get a correction at some point next year. I strongly believe it. But if Trump can repatriate a bunch of money and bring this corporate tax rate down, I think there's a chance that it won't hurt as bad as it could.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And this sort of insight, this sort of sober analysis, but high level of service when it comes to your financial planning and planning long-term wealth preservation, or maybe you're a business or individual or an institution of some sort, you got to go with Invista Advisors. And of course, Austin Baranko here, we've been talking to, is one of the great team members there at Invista Advisors. Call them up today. That number's still 387-0094.
That's us.
And be sure to tell them that you heard Austin on the radio with that Joey Clark guy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joey.
Appreciate it, Austin. Again, folks, that's Austin Baranko with Invista Advisors.
The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. The opinions expressed in this material do not necessarily reflect the views of LPL Financial. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Invista Advisors, registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.
We're going to hit our break early. Coming back, we should have joining us via the stream Luis Elizondo, former director of ATIP. That's the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. He's a disclosure and transparency advocate, author of a #1 best-selling book, father and proud veteran. I look forward to talking to Luis Elizondo on the other side of this break.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
This is an SRNU special report. I'm John Scott. There has been a fatal shooting at a Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin. This occurred at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, the state capital, at around noon Eastern Time. Madison Chief of Police Sean F. Barnes is reporting that 7 people were transported to the hospital. There have been 3 fatalities reported, including the juvenile shooter. The shooter had been found and was deceased when authorities found him. The Dane County Sheriff's Office and agents from the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive responded to the scene to assist in the investigation. Abundant Life Christian School is non-denominational and has about 390 students from kindergarten through high school. This has been an SRN News Special Report. I'm John Scott.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit. 800-885-3333. That's 800-885-3333. 800-885-3333.
Rich Thomas Weather, a service of Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, where over-the-road dump truck drivers are needed right now. Home twice a week and every weekend. Must leave early on Sunday with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Call them now at 855-777-9785.
Our very mild December weather continues. In fact, today and the next couple of days will be warmer than the weekend. I've got today's high right around 73 with a sun and cloud mix. Tonight will be dry in our part of the state. Overnight low temperature very mild, 53. Tomorrow, patchy dense fog early, then look for a sun and cloud mix, very spring-like. Mid-70s Tuesday and Wednesday. On Wednesday, maybe some isolated showers possible and widely scattered showers possible Wednesday night. Noticeably cooler Thursday and Friday with sunshine. 63 Thursday, near 60 Friday. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Thank you for voting ASC Credit Union, the best credit union in the River Region 6 years in a row. As we celebrate our 70th anniversary, we are proud to be at the top of the list for the best credit union in the hearts of the communities we serve.
From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, here's today's top stories. Construction on the new Alabama State House has been hit by delays, but the facility is expected to be ready for the 2027 legislative session. Retirement Systems of Alabama CEO David Bronner said that a portion of the project had to be rebid, causing a delay of about 4 to 6 months. The legislature contracted RSA to design and build the new State House last year at a cost of $325 million. Dive teams recovered the body of a man near Kalijah Restaurant at Lake Martin Sunday night. The unidentified man in his 60s and a friend docked their boat at Kalijah Restaurant for dinner. When the man tried to get back into the boat, he accidentally fell into the water and drowned. No further information has been released. Governor Kay Ivey has announced nearly $45 million in federal money will be going to help low-income Alabamians pay their power bills. The funding from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services will be distributed through the Alabama Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, I'm Sky Mosley.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
Happy holidays from Marguerite's. And every year we do an unbelievable $99 Christmas special. And it's got to be 14 karat white or yellow gold, and it's got to be high quality Marguerite's diamonds. Well, this year it's the best one ever. It's individual 14 karat letters that we've cut out and added a 7-point diamond to on a 14 karat necklace. Impossible. That's right. All the initial diamond necklaces, $99 at Marguerite's till Christmas.
What's your biggest investment? More than likely, it's your home. So treat it that way when you hire a painting contractor. With PBS Painting, there are no gimmicks, no $99 specials. Just quality painting and someone who treats your home with the same respect that you do. At PBS Painting, we have been painting for years. and look forward to many more years to come. With PBS Painting, the job gets prepped properly, whether it's cleaning, scraping, or priming. We always use quality products, which is a must for a quality paint job. So if you're looking for a painter that doesn't need upfront money and is on the job at all times, then please give me a call. Scott Bowers and PBS Painting, 294-5122. That's PBS Painting, 294-5122. Look at some of our work on Facebook at PBS Painting Montgomery.
Are you tired of the mainstream media's biased reporting? Do you want to stay informed on the news that really matters to you? Look no further than 1819 News. At 1819 News, we bring you the latest in Alabama news, politics, sports, culture, and more. We've assembled a team of journalists with Alabama values dedicated to the truth and the truth alone. Visit us at 1819news.com today. That's 1819news.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Honest News, Alabama Values.
Dirty carpets, Peaches and Clean. Dirty area rugs, Peaches and Clean. Dirty oriental rugs, Peaches and Clean. Dirty tile and grout, Peaches and Clean. It's time to get your carpeting, rugs, tile, and grout back in shape. Give us a call at Peaches and Clean, 277-6937. Powerful carpet cleaning, peachesandclean.com.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
After damning politicians uphill and down dale for many years as rogues, vagabonds, frauds, and scoundrels, I sometimes suspected, like everyone else, I often expect too much of them.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back into the program. Now, as promised, we have joining us to the stream Luis Elizondo, and I again want to thank our friend here in the studio, Troy Carrico, for putting this together. Luis, great to see you, sir. Thank you for being on the program.
Hey, listen, my honor and privilege. Thank you so much. And in all honesty, any friend of Troy's is a friend of mine.
Beautiful. Well, I kind of wanted to begin there. Like, how do you two know each other? I know there's a bit of a story here.
Well, you know, like the old story, we laughed, we cried, right? We were in the NAM together. No, I'm kidding.
It seemed like it, didn't it?
Well, so I hear something about y'all are at the Great Skills program together or something like that.
The not so, isn't it the not so great skills?
Yeah, Troy, I'll let you handle that one, buddy.
No, that's how we came into meeting. We worked for a program that was, and it was weird, wasn't it, Lou? We were on a NSA payroll system, working for DIA Great Skills, manning on an Army Department of Army roster. And Lou, tell me if I'm wrong. If your pay was jacked up, you were host for a while, weren't you? When you were down.
Oh yeah, no.
No one knew where we were at.
Money through just about every intel agency. Troy's right. We were being paid by NSA, so technically we're National Security Agency employees technically, but we were. So what happened is that the Army is what we call a Title 10 program. Basically, they have to focus really on Army things and DoD things, but there's a circumstance sometimes in national security where you need DoD people to do intelligence community work. So Title 50 work, but you have Title 10 people doing it. So there's this gray area. It's very common in the special operations community like JSOC. So what they do is they take people that can work both, basically have one foot on each side of the fence, both Title 10 and Title 50. And that's how they get away with using guys like us in the program that you just heard called Great Skills, which, by the way, I'm here to tell you, you don't neither have to be great nor do you need any skills. It's kind of one of the things to tell you, hey, go Special Forces. You realize, Wait a minute. What did I just sign myself up to do?
I just got through telling Joey, I said, I was so excited. I'm like, man, this is like the Island of Misfit Toys in that Christmas special, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, pretty much anybody who doesn't play well with others goes into
that's perfect.
Well, and for folks who weren't listening earlier or just tuning in now, Luis Elizondo here is former director of ATIP, that's the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And of course, he's an author. I just got through the book this weekend, sir, Imminent, Inside the Pentagon's Hut for UFOs, #1 bestseller, instant bestseller, New York Times, Amazon. And, getting through the book, I guess here's kind of where, before we get to the book, I want to start with topical news. And we can kind of fill in the blanks after the fact. But this ongoing drone scenario, where it was first over New Jersey, you've got a Congressman Van Drew saying it's an Iranian mothership. The government says, no, there's no threat here. We don't really know what it is, or we can't. It's very confusing. It's
confusing. And I'll tell you, you have every right to be frustrated. Your audience has every right to be frustrated. This issue has not been handled properly by the I want to put politics aside here, by the way. Let me just caveat, I'm apolitical. So I've worked for both liberal presidents and conservative presidents. As Troy will tell you, when you take an oath to your nation, you don't care who's in charge. You serve whoever's running the show. And that's always been the way I felt. However, this administration, politics aside, has not done a very good job being transparent on this drone issue. And there may be some very valid reasons why. I don't agree with those reasons, but I think I can understand why. And also part of the problem is that the bureaucracy is very huge and cumbersome, that the right hand doesn't always necessarily communicate with the left hand. And so what they could be saying in some cases when they say, look, we really don't know, they could be telling you the truth. They really don't know, or at least certain elements. But my big concern really with the drone issue is that, look, no matter the scenario, I think the American public can handle the truth. I believe in transparency. I do not believe that allowing some government bureaucrat to make the unilateral decision what we can and cannot handle. If it turns out that there is a broken arrow situation, there is some sort of weapons of mass destruction that has been covertly or secretly placed here in continental United States, and what we are seeing is the U.S.'s response to quote unquote sniff these out. I can understand why they wouldn't want to panic people and maybe necessarily inform state and local governments because they don't want to cause panic. But with that said, I also believe that at this point, if that is the case, we need to level with the American public. We need to let them know, because this is almost a worst case scenario. I don't think these are necessarily foreign adversarial technologies. I could be wrong, but let me tell you why. Let's take this pen for a second, and let's just say this is a drone or a UAV. There are typical hobbyist drones that can fly for about 15 minutes under electric power. If you want to fly, there's two types of drones. You have one that's a fixed wing, kind of like an airplane, and they have loiter time. So usually what you do is you put some sort of JP8 or liquid combustible as fuel, and it can fly for 12, 13 hours and fly pretty far and pretty long. But if you want something to hover, think of a quadcopter or something like that, that's not fixed wing, you really can't use liquid type of fuel because it's too heavy. At 7.5 pounds per gallon, your vehicle becomes too heavy to fly. So what you do, and that's why most of our helicopters look so big, because they're huge. They have to carry a lot of fuel. If you want to create a quadcopter type, most of those are powered by electricity, meaning battery powered, typically lithium ion battery. And some of these drones have been reported as being the size of an SUV. So you're talking about something significantly large, right? This is not a little quadcopter. Then you have communication, command, control, and communication issue of these things, right? These things are electronically controlled. Now, most drones are what they call line of sight or to the horizon, right? If you want to go beyond that, you need a way to repeat that signal. So it's either an airborne platform like an aircraft, or in this case, it could potentially be a satellite that's going to take signals and send them over the horizon to these drones, especially if these drones are reported to fly for 5-6 hours at a time, incredible loiter time, and in some cases fly for hundreds of miles. That's not a typical drone. That's definitely a specifically designed drone to do a very specific thing, probably some sort of intelligence, surveillance, or reconnaissance, what we call ISR. Then you have another issue, which is the infrastructure. If I want to fly one of these drones, forget about a bunch of them, just one over the horizon in a way that is completely anonymous, right? I have to have a way to launch these things. I have to have a way to recover these things. I have to have a way to maintain these things and deploy them and over and over and over again. And that's a huge footprint. That's a lot of manpower. That's not just some dude running out on an ATV and, this is now something big. It's a big orchestration. So it really has to be state sponsored to some degree. This is not a bunch of hobbyists trying to, play a prank on their neighbors. This is something, and they're doing it at night, which is, of course, when you want to do operations, if you don't want to be seen and be identified, you do it at night. So it is problematic. Now, there's also a potential that some of these UAP, and I'm not sure I subscribe to this, but let me just say, there are a lot of reports that these things are not necessarily drones. Okay, they're behaving in ways, they're coming out of the water. In some cases, they're communicating with each other. They've been reported to, in some cases, join up mid-flight. And in other cases, the blinking strobe lights you see are not consistent with any type of navigational pattern of lights. So it's possible, for example, in the old days, if you had a UFO or a UAP report over a military installation, you'd have to wake up a pilot. He'd have to go to the helicopter, start the helicopter up, and go flat and try to find this thing. Well, we don't need to do that anymore. We have technology. We have these things called drones that literally we can geofence something automatically. And if there's an incursion, these things take off by themselves and they start interrogating the landscape. And they go to prearranged locations. And now with 5 drones, you can cover a lot more area than you can with a single helicopter. So is it possible on the other side of that spectrum of this conversation that we're dealing with maybe initially some UAP reports, and then the government's response to that is to launch the drones and go ahead and try to find these things? And that's why some people are reporting these huge craft that are silent, and other people reporting these whirring sounds in these drones. So that's another option as well. And then there's a whole plethora of other which range somewhere within that spectrum of possibilities. The problem is that our government is not being transparent about it. And it's one or the other. Either they're not being transparent, they're doing it willfully, or they're just extremely incompetent. We have the ability to shoot these things down. No problem at all. You can do it non-kinetically. You do not need to shoot it with bullets. We've got electronic ways to jam these things from an electronic perspective and electronic warfare perspective. I won't go into the details, but believe me, if it flies, it dies. We have no problem with taking one of these things down. The question is, why aren't we? Right. And so therein lies part of the problem. We don't have a consistent response.
Now, I know you said you didn't necessarily subscribe to that last scenario you gave, but if it is UAP activity, has there, in your experience, ever been this robust of a response by the government to UAP activity?
Well, look, we've been saying for years, brother, they're getting more bold. I mean, people are acting surprised now. If this turns out to be UAP related, I mean, what'd you expect? Look what happened to the Roosevelt. Look what happened to the Nimitz. Look what's the issues that we were seeing with the quote unquote drones 5 years ago in Denver and Colorado and Nebraska. Right. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a report last night. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base shut down. Right.
Yeah.
This is happening not in just New Jersey, but Virginia, over Langley Air Force Base, over Andrews Air Force Base. That's right, where the president keeps his airplane. These things are showing up over these sensitive military installations, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it, or we won't do anything about it. I don't know which is worse.
So when you still, I'm sure, encounter resistance and pushback on even the whole idea of UAPs and UFOs, and I think some of that is by design, obviously, with a lot of the conspiracy stuff that's been out for decades. In my own experience, it was the Tic Tac videos, and then I guess the gimbal videos. When you see those, I'm like, okay, this is something. It kind of shifted me because I'd never been the UFO guy. But what are the different ways people sort of come to realize there's something going on here, whether they're working within the government or as you're giving a presentation?
Yeah. So let me just say for the record, I wasn't a UFO guy. I never was. In fact, I always consider myself more of a G.I. Joe kid than I was a Star Wars kid. I went to school to be a scientist. I studied microbiology, immunology, and parasites in college. Always been a disciple of the scientific methodology. Always have been as a special agent, just a facts man kind of guy. So whether you're investigating terrorism or espionage or counterinsurgency or counter narcotics or fill in the blank, national security crime, it was always very, very data driven, fact oriented. And when I first had one of my conversations with one of the people who brought me into the program, ATIP, which was part of ATIP OSAP back then, DoD, we love our acronyms. That's when I realized that we actually had a real UFO investigative program. And I find that people, at least when I was briefing senior leadership on this topic, they took it two ways. Most people had this almost epiphany, this revelation, like, oh my God, you mean they're real? And then there's other folks like me that took a little more time to get to the point to realize, okay, we're not talking about Russian or Chinese or Blue Force, U.S. technology. We're talking about truly something exotic, something that is a paradigm difference than anything that we normally expect to work with. And that's when that internalization begins to happen. I remember distinctly the conversation with then Dr. Jim Lukatsky, who was running OSAP at the time when he brought me in. He is probably one of America's greatest rocket scientists of this last century. Truly a brilliant, brilliant mind. And he looked at me straight in the eyes. He said, so and this, I had no idea what the job was until he said this, is, what do you think about UFOs? So I looked at him and I told him the truth. I said, I don't. And he says, what, you don't believe in them? And I said, no, I didn't say that. You asked me, what do I think of them? And I don't think of them because I don't have the luxury or the time to. I'm too busy, doing other work and chasing bad guys, and never really gave it any serious thought. And he said to me, fair enough, but be advised that what you may learn here in this job may challenge any preconceived notions or narratives you have on the matter. And he was right.
Yeah, and there's one type of resistance, which is sort of people have been primed by the conspiracy stuff. But in your book, you talk about a different type of resistance within the government, whether you're trying to get, say, the Air Force to let you go with a private contractor and see certain things they're holding. And this sounds like it's still ongoing to this day, that there are certain elements within the government that really don't want to talk about this, doesn't want to let even somebody with the clearances to even see these things. So, what is that element? Could we kind of break down why certain parts of the government are doing this?
Sure. There's a lot of resistance for this many reasons. Let's go back. Let me give you some real world examples to emphasize it. So it's not just world according to Lou and, opining and pontificating. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the late 1940s along the Dead Sea. And it was almost 20 years before the scientific community actually published the translations of them. And the reason why is because they were afraid the impact these scrolls would have on the current understanding of the Judeo-Christian belief system, right? It's not uncommon for governments to sequester information from individuals if they believe there is a potential threat. Another case in point. And also, it's not uncommon for countries to hide a problem until there's a solution for it. Let's look at 1950s, and we had then Soviet Union and the United States in the middle of a Cold War, which, by the way, wasn't really cold. It was actually a pretty hot encounter with proxy wars all over the place. Yeah. But there was a treaty we had with Russia saying we would not fly manned reconnaissance missions over Russia, mainland Russia. But there was a problem. See, the problem was that we wanted to keep an eye on their ICBM development. So how do you do it? Well, you get Lockheed Martin with the CIA to develop a new airplane called the U-2 that fly faster and higher than any other airplane that we had. In fact, so high that the Russians would never even be able to track it. Right? So what happens the first few times we fly this plane over Russia and there's no response? It worked. Oh my God, mission success. We actually made a plane that flew faster and higher, and they couldn't detect it. That wasn't until the Russians were able to develop the SA-2 surface-to-air missile and successfully shoot it down, and then parade Powers, the pilot, in front of the United Nations along with the wreckage from the U-2, did they admit to the world and their own people that they were tracking every single flight. It wasn't until they had an ability to neutralize the threat did they ever admit that there was a threat to begin with. And organizations, religions do it, institutions and organizations and governments all do that. If there is some information that it may be considered disruptive, then they don't want to have that conversation with the American people until they have a solution for it. And that's really typical of the national security apparatus. That's not atypical. As Troy will tell you, he and I have been involved in many of these very sensitive classified programs in the past, and America will have no idea that we were engaged in some of these things. simply because we don't want to tip our hand to the world that we're necessarily doing, or worse, show a vulnerability that we have. This drone activity is a huge vulnerability. This is showing to everybody around the world that we can't even stop a quadcopter. What would, let's say, some non-nation state decides to third party put some sort of biological or chemical weapons on these drones and fly
the Super Bowl. At the Super Bowl, man.
Right?
I know.
The Army Navy game. I mean, can you imagine? Wait a minute, guys. And yet the White House is saying, yeah, not a threat. Wait a minute.
You remember,
Brad, it's a simple calculation: capabilities versus intent.
Oh.
We've seen some of the capabilities. We have no idea the intent. So to say that these things are not a threat is ridiculous.
You were working counter narc missions a lot, and I was too. And one of the things that you remember about 12 years ago, it might have been Jalisco New Generation, but down there, they were arming grenades way before the Ukraine war, and dropping them on competitors' drone labs.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking, I remember looking at that, Lou, and I was talking to Mario, one of our good friends. I said, Mario, what concerns me is you can upgrade these drones, arm them, and fly them in at a college football game and do some serious
asymmetric
damage.
warfare, brother. Absolutely.
That's right, man. Asymmetric.
Right. And then, of course, like even a layman like me, you can see how drones have changed the very nature of warfare when you look at what's happening in Ukraine. And thank God we're not having to
paradigm shift
in that
combat.
way.
Hey, Lou, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be an infantryman anymore. Do you?
No, look, brother, I'm at the age.
Listen, I was infantry before this, and you were too. And I'm telling you, I look and think, my God.
Let me tell you what I say now. There's my old Army days, and now there's my Armani days. My days of wearing camouflage, man. I love my brothers and sisters in uniform, man, and all our vets. But that's a young person's game. My like yours, Troy. I'm sure my body's wrecked, dude. My knees,
we're broke. Well, I can't say the other word, but broke. You know what? But anyways, hey, real fast. Let's go back to we're talking about so our callers and our listeners understand. Just because you're read on, just because you have a top secret TSSCI and with caveats, doesn't mean you have access to special access programs, which are the proverbial layer of the onion that arguably the president doesn't get to see certain things.
That's right.
And that's hard for people to grasp sometimes, I think.
And then there's even other categories, right? So you've got these what we call SPEAK, or special categories of information. You have ACCMs, but in the SAP world, then you have these things called unacknowledged wave SAPs, right?
That's right.
Which are even more. We have this what they call a bigoted list just to even get access to it. So that's like a SAP on steroids. Then you've got controlled access programs, CAPS, and then you've got covert action, right? Which is this people don't, unless you've been in the government, don't understand the difference, for example, between clandestine and covert operations. But there are actual legal definitions and there are nuances. And that's why somebody who says, well, I'm a super user, I've been read onto everything. Well, not really. You've been read onto a lot, but there's some stuff you have not been read onto.
Now, before we keep going, because I do want to continue with the conversation of how the government uses classification as a weapon and they overclassify things. I think it applies to what you've been working on, Lou, and much more with our government. But kind of what are we talking about? And I wrote down the list of observables, folks. Hypersonic, instant acceleration, low observability, transmedium travel, anti-gravity, and biological effects. And this, one of your colleagues suggested that maybe it was one breakthrough that could lead to all these sort of capabilities. So this is paradigm breaking, technologically speaking, but also, as you hinted at, it could break people's minds in terms of their philosophy, their religion. It could expose every government on Earth as incredibly vulnerable and incapable of fighting this stuff. So, when I list off those terms, folks might be like, "What? I've heard hypersonic. What the heck are these other ones?" What exactly are we talking about with the capabilities of these UAPs? Well, I can't hear you, Lou, for some reason. There you go.
All right. Sorry, guys.
That's it.
So Uncle Sam doesn't want me having this conversation.
We're getting jammed.
All right. So what we realize in ATIP that early on, and Troy will tell you this, any intelligence operation, if you want to be able to discern the difference between a technology or a capability and something different, you have to understand the performance characteristics that set aside that special thing from anything you have in your inventory. So let's start with instantaneous acceleration. Here is a pen. There are inertial forces that are experienced on this pen when I go from point A to point B, or a change velocity. Okay, there is these inertial forces. So the human being can withstand about 9 G forces for a short period of time, for a short duration. That's while wearing a G suit. Otherwise, you can expect to suffer things like blackouts, redouts, and ultimately death. That it's the force of gravity on the human body. So we can withstand about 9 G forces for a short period of time. To compare that to some of our most highly maneuverable manned aircraft, the older aircraft, it's an older platform. It's by General Dynamics. It's called the F-16. Still one of the most highly maneuverable manned aircraft we have, can perform about, at the unclassified level, 17 to 18 G forces before you start having structural failure, meaning the wings begin to snap off and the airplane begins to disintegrate while you're flying it. To compare that to what we are seeing objects performing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 G forces, well beyond the healthy limitations of anything biological to withstand, and even from a material science perspective. Let's go to hypersonics. So hypersonics are those speeds described as being Mach 5 or above. What is Mach? Mach is the speed of sound. So roughly 762 miles an hour at sea, depending on barometric pressure at sea level. So 5 times that. Now, do we have technologies that can do hypersonics? Yes, we do. For example, the Lockheed YF-12A SR-71 Blackbird. It can perform speeds at the unclassified level, roughly 3,200 miles an hour. So right there, about Mach 5. But when it wants to take a right-hand turn, it takes roughly half the state of Ohio to do it. What we are seeing are things that can do not 3,200 miles an hour, but 10,000, 13,000 miles an hour, and able to perform immediate right-angle turns and 180-degree turns. So we don't have that technology, right? And we're pretty sure our adversaries don't have that. And we've been seeing this for a really long time. Another one is transmedium travel, the ability to operate in multiple domains or environments. Now, we do have vehicles that are transmedium. We have a seaplane, for example. It can both float on the water and it can fly, but let's face it, a seaplane is neither a really good airplane or a really good boat because it's a design compromise. And the more environments you want to operate in, the more you have to sacrifice on your design and performance characteristics. We don't see that here. We see these things coming in the atmosphere, potentially low Earth orbit, and even underwater, and they can perform exactly the same way that they're performing in other environments, right? We don't have that ability. Then you have low observability, which is what these drones are being reported. People see them, but they don't know what they're looking at, and they're hard to chase. And then the moment you chase one, they disappear. Either they go over the horizon, or their lights go dark, or they just disappear into thin air, as has been reported by some media outlets. Again, I can't say that's true. What I'm simply saying is that's what they're reporting. But if that's the case, and that's certainly low observability. And then the last one is anti-gravity, the ability to defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity without the associated technologies. So if you want to fly from LA to New York, you hop on a plane, and there's 4 forces you have to understand. You have thrust, lift, drag, and weight. And when you understand those, you can create wings and you can create lift and fly. Another way to defy Earth's gravity is with shear ballistics. Force equals mass times acceleration, right? Force equals ma. So if I blast something with enough energy, whether it's an ICBM or simply throw a baseball in the air, if I put enough energy, it's going to go up until it comes back down. And then the last way we know how to defy Earth's gravity is through buoyancy. Think of a hot air balloon or a helium balloon, where you have this cavity, volume of space where the density is less inside than outside, and it rises to equilibrium. But we don't see that with these UAP. We see things that have wings. They don't have rudders, elevators, ailerons, not even cockpits that we can see. They don't have any obvious signs of propulsion, and yet still they're able to defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity. So when you look at that from an intelligence perspective, you say, okay, well, what aircraft or what type of technology do we have that can do that? And when you go through the entire inventory and you realize we don't. I mean, we do have low observable aircraft, right? It's called a B-2 bomber or a Valkyrie, but that's only a radar cross section. You can still see it with the naked eye pretty easy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's truly low observable. So those were the things that really helped us establish and set aside the performance differences of a UAP versus maybe something we call TNO, which is temporary non-attributable object.
So it almost sounds like warp technology. You know, I grew up watching Star Trek with my grandfather, and I'm actually, for all sorts of reasons, we'll go into living with him now. He's 88 years old. And by the way, was a chief maintenance tech on the SR-71. So as I'm showing you, or showing him interviews of you, he was very excited at watching and getting to know as I was doing my research here. But, you know, watching Star Trek, what sort of fuel could create that amount of energy? I guess in the fictional world, it's dilithium. But is there any idea? I know there's like what is actually allowing them to do that?
Yeah, so there's two fundamental ways that we understand how to warp space-time. People say, well, that's mumbo jumbo. No, it's not. It's a fact. We live in a world where space-time is relative. So the Newtonian understanding of space-time is not the Einstein relativity understanding of space-time, where we talk space is flexible, it's stretchable, it's compressible. And in fact, all you have to do is look at a GPS satellite and realize every week we have to compensate for something called atomic drift. The cesium atomic clocks on board the spacecraft, because they're further away from Earth, those clocks operate at a different rate than the atomic cesium clock at the ground station. And if you don't adjust that, your GPS is going to be off by miles within a few weeks. Mm-hmm. So that's a fact. And that's because the warping of space-time around a massive object, in this case Earth, is greater the closer you get to that massive object. So you can warp space through E equals mc squared. Energy and mass can be thought of, but fundamentally it's the same thing in two different states. What do I mean? Yeah. Think of mass as ice, right? Think of it hard. Think of energy as steam. They're both fundamentally water, but they're in two different states. If I take matter and I annihilate it, what do I get? I get pure energy. That's a nuclear bomb. And if I take energy and I start slowing it down, what do I get? I start getting subatomic particles and quarks and things like that showing up. So you can think of the two as being coefficients of each other, and you can rearrange them in that equation of E equals mc squared. So there's two ways we know how to warp space-time. One with a lot of mass, which is not what we're seeing here. These things, if they were as super massive as Earth, then they would be perturbing Earth's gravity. So the other way is with a lot of energy. And it turns out it's a lot of energy. But if you have the right energy, a lot of energy and the right frequency with the right material, the idea is that you don't need really an engine, right? So think of a car or an airplane that has an engine inside. Well, imagine that this energy can interact with the skin of the craft, creating this bubble around the vehicle, where the way you experience space-time, there's a delta, meaning it's different inside this bubble than outside the bubble. And so what appears to be like magic and instantaneous acceleration and hypersonic velocity, in reality, if you were inside that bubble, you wouldn't have any of those forces. In fact, looking outside the bubble from inside, we would all be going in slow motion. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting, very advanced physics that the scientists came up with a long 3-hour-long mathematical equation that I still don't understand. I got up to Calc 3 and I thought I was going to die. And so what I was seeing in front of me in the skiff was well beyond my ability. But at the end of the day, they explained how they were able to get to this conclusion. And it turns out that with enough energy, you can create these bubbles. And there's been other experiments and things we call Alcubierre drive, which is what you referred to in Star Trek as a warp drive. That's exactly what basically an Alcubierre drive is.
But you need a Heisenberg coupler on that warp drive. Remember that. That's the most critical part of the warp drive, is that the Heisenberg coupler. If it fails, your ship goes nowhere.
Now, I think about, like, for instance, the guy who's popularized this idea is Eric Weinstein, that we're at a sort of blind alley with a lot of the physics, is at least out there in the public, the official science. So, for instance, just as in a nutshell, and by the way, I got the trigonometry and I cracked out. I think I still got the verbal IQ. But the idea is the standard model, the theory of the very, very small, and general relativity, the theory of the very, very big or large forces, is they don't reconcile with one another, which suggests that maybe we're not quite there, in the same way that Newton wasn't quite fully correct. Right. Maybe even our current theories aren't fully correct, and this could allow us to puncture completely different capability.
Sure.
Yeah. We're beginning to understand that the universe is really more of a fractal universe than it is in anything else. The whole sacred geometry and things that we begin to really look at during the Renaissance, turns out there's actually a lot of congruency with actually the way our universe really works. If you look at the patterns for example, of our universe. Let's take human biology. If I look at the neural pathways in my brain, or I look at the pathways, my capillaries in my lungs, and the alveoli are taking in my lungs, and I compare that to the patterns of veins in a fern, or I compare that to something completely non-organic, like the pattern of lightning, or something physical, like the path that water takes down a mountainside, you begin to notice these fractal patterns. Same thing in snowflakes. But as you see these fractal patterns in the very small, you also see them in the largest scale of our universe. If you look at the patterns of the supergalactic clusters of our universe, you'll begin to see fractal patterns there as well. Even when you're doing terrorist profiling on link analysis and things like that, you will notice even in our social engineering, there's a fractal pattern, right? So when you realize that, you begin to realize that there are universal truths. There are universal blueprints that everything has to abide by that may appear random, but isn't. It's the reason why when you look at, you get up close to a tree branch, you're not really sure what type of tree you're looking at, because why? Every branch is unique, and every branch is unlike any other branch in the entire world. And yet, when you step back enough from that tree, you now can recognize it's an oak tree or it's a palm tree. Why? Because all of a sudden now those random patterns aren't so random anymore. And so that is how when we want to look at something that is really uniquely potentially non-human, we have to stop thinking in human terms, in human ways. We have to force ourselves to stop thinking anthropomorphically, right? It's a reason why all of us have dogs and cats and we give them human names and we talk to them in baby voices. It's a reason why, I'm a boater and I refer to my boat as a she, right? She's a good boat, right? It is anthropomorphic. It is a way we deal with things in our own paradigm. We relate to each other that way. We simply have to look at everything through human terms. But what if NHI, or non-human intelligence, doesn't? Maybe it's something like artificial intelligence, right? AI. Don't look now, but AI is getting very close to possible sentience and self-awareness. And if that happens, did we just create a non-human life form?
And I wonder how many of these ideas like that we're just discussing here today, kind of scratching the surface, have been known for decades. I saw a fascinating clip of Mark Andreessen, the investor and guy, I guess, who founded Netscape. He said he was talking to some outgoing folks in the Biden administration. They told him, don't worry about investing in AI. We're going to only allow it to be 2-3 companies, and we'll put a government cocoon around it. So don't waste your money. And Andreessen said, all the math to run these AI machines and computers is open source. And they said, yeah, well, we classified whole fields of physics during the Cold War. We can do it with AI as well. Wow. And it just makes me wonder how much is behind layer after layer, like the Russian nesting dolls, like rooms within rooms within rooms. Yeah. And I can understand what we were talking about earlier. They don't want to appear vulnerable. They certainly don't want to admit ignorance or something that would upset people's, say, ideals or faith. But why isn't the government talking to itself? The point you made earlier. Why isn't the left hand working right alongside the right hand?
Well, Troy will tell you, through personal experiences, that it's not uncommon that there's some dysfunction in the government. There are activities that occur. Look, ATIP was one of them, right? That operated, and the president didn't know about it. And even though we tried to get the secretary to learn about it, the proverbial Praetorian guards around him didn't want him being briefed on it. So it's, believe it or not that uncommon. But let's you bring up something really interesting. And I think a lot of this conversation boils down to hubris. We always like to think of ourselves as being the apex predators and whatnot. And I will tell you, when I was in school, if you look at I think we talked about this before, maybe, but if you look at a 24-hour clock, modern Homo sapiens, we've been around here for how long? 200 to 400,000 years, right? And if you look at that, a 24-hour clock, it's been roughly the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes that we realized, it was 2,000 years ago, that the Greeks realized there's two types of life form on this planet, and you're either a plant or you're an animal, and human beings fell under that animal kingdom. And then it wasn't until the last 10 seconds of our existence, 300 years ago, during the Renaissance, the days of enlightenment, where we realized there was this other hidden form of life that's been around us all along. And it was called fungus. That was neither plant nor animal. And so, we pat ourselves on the shoulder, what a clever little monkey we are. And it wasn't the last 5 seconds of our existence, right? As the hand strikes midnight, the last 120 years ago, did we actually discover the true alpha life form on this planet? And in fact, if you take all the biomass of every plant and the biomass of every animal and the biomass of every fungus and put it all together, it still does not add up to the biomass of this hidden life form. And it wasn't until we could bend glass, curve glass, and put it in a little tube and look through that tube and famously shout the words, little beasties, did we discover the world of microorganisms that is actually bigger than the entire biomass of every plant, animal, and fungus combined. It's inside every human being. It's living on skin of the ISS space station, miles beneath the Arctic ice. When I was a kid, I was always told in school and in college that all life derived from photosynthesis. Turns out that's not true. In fact, you go to the bottom of the ocean where the black smokers are, and there's animals thriving down there off of a process called chemosynthesis. That's right. And so we're now beginning to realize that every time we try to define what life is, we're missing the boat. Now, if you get back to what you said, are these things extraterrestrial or perhaps interdimensional or whatever that means? Is it possible these things are just as common to the Earth as we are? Perhaps they've been here all along. Perhaps they've been living under the ocean, right? We've mapped less than 20% of the ocean floor. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do the bottom of the ocean. Is it possible that these things have been here all along and we're just now like little beasties to the point where we can interact with them technologically? Or is it something different? Is it something truly interdimensional? What do I mean by that? Well, we live in an interdimensional reality right now. People don't realize that. We have 5 fundamental senses by which we judge our universe. And if we can't touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it, etc., we have no idea it's there. And yet if you had the ability to look through the world through this little thing called cell phone vision, right? And now be able to go ahead and see in Wi-Fi and 5G, you would see a completely different reality around you. I live here in Wyoming, and we have the most beautiful, unoccluded night skies you could ask for. And yet, if you look at that same part of the night sky through a radio telescope and see in infrared and ultraviolet, you would see a completely different reality. You would see nebulas and gas clouds and things that you normally can't see. So the reality is that most of the universe, when you look at human vision, for example, listen to this. That's 0.0038% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, that's less than 1% of 1%. That's what we see the universe is, right? Most reality, everything lies beyond that. All right. And so we actually, by definition, can't perceive more than 0.001%. And then you have a scale issue because the universe is so big. If you look at what modern scientists now say, the visible edge of our universe from end to end is about 40 billion light years, right? Now, what is a light year? Maybe your audience isn't aware, but it's the time it takes light to travel in 1 year, a photon of light. How fast is that? Well, it travels at 186 miles per second, 7.5 times around our planet in 1 second. So imagine how far it can go in a year. Now imagine how far it can go in 40 billion years, right? It's immensely huge. And we're this tiny little speck in the middle. And the real universe, by the way, that's only our visible universe, is only 10% of the actual universe, as most scientists now speculate. So multiply that by 10. And as incomprehensibly small as we are, if you compare that to Avogadro's number, right? Compare an atom molecule of hydrogen atom 1 time or 6 times something to 10 to the negative 23rd. That's roughly the same order of magnitude, that atom as to us as we are to the universe. And we can only as a species, we can only really interact with 1 or 2 orders of magnitude up or down, simply because the universe is either too big or too small at that point. We'll never be able to interact with it. It's either too big or too small. And so we live at this little tiny narrow threshold of reality, when in reality, the real reality is that most of everything in nature lies beyond our ability to perceive it directly.
Yeah, hubris indeed. And it really is. It's amazing. It does seem like there's a paradigm shift across the board. I've got to hit a break here in a second. Again, folks, we've been talking to Luis Elizondo. Get the book. It's called Imminent: Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs, written by the former head of the Pentagon program investigating UAPs. I found it on Amazon pretty quickly, and I enjoy the audiobook, listening to you in your own voice. And it's not just about the UAP, folks. It's a bit of a memoir. And I don't know if it's just me, but for some reason, sort of the idiosyncratic details jump out to me. And I think I have my own almost like psychic moment as I'm listening to you read your own book, Lou, in the sense that I had the thought, I think this guy was kind of like born and destined to do this. And then I think like 5 minutes later, you say it in your book. I just want to give one example. We're were raised both, for lack of a better term, Jewish and Catholic at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah, and I went to Hebrew school and read
Some
from
people
the
call that
Torah
schizophrenic, but
yeah, well, I got the guilt from both sides, so it's
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
One thing about Lou, I want to say, Lou, and I'm going to toot your own horn, even though you don't need it, but he's one of the most interesting cats that I know. I enjoyed him because even when we were serving together, when we would talk, it wasn't always just about intelligence. It was about questions of life, existential questions. It was philosophical questions. And, and I know we're getting ready to go to a break, but I really look forward to hearing your final take on, I watched your Rogan podcast, and I'm going to tell you something. It was very emotional at the end. It actually, my wife and I watched it, and I'm getting a little tear jerked when you were talking about what does this mean for us? We're with your mother passing and all that. And, Lou, I like that part of you. I like that you open that part of you up, and that's what makes you very genuine, very believable. So
I appreciate it, but if you're gonna get to the top of the hills and demand transparency, then you have to start with yourself. And so
Amen,
that's
brother.
to be transparent in that book like that. But of course, very vulnerable.
Well, beautiful, and it does shine through in the book. And we'll continue the conversation in just a second if you can hang out here. And really do appreciate the time today, sir.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
This part of the program brought to you by, Alabama Home Mortgage. The entire hour brought to you by Alabama Home Mortgage. And there at Alabama Home Mortgage, they can help you whether you're looking to buy a home in the new year. You should go ahead, call them right now. Get ready, get pre-approved to go ahead and hit that market running. If you go out looking for a home without getting pre-approved, you're wasting the seller's time, you're wasting your own time. And of course, a lot of folks thinking about a refinance deal, especially after this big election. And again, you don't have to wait till the new year to refinance or at least get the plan going. Go ahead and call Kim and Madeline there at Alabama Home Mortgage. Let them get to know you. Your goals in refinancing could be getting credit card debt off your back, restructuring your finances. Maybe you're reinvesting in yourself, your family, your property. They can help you out there. And they specialize in helping veterans. They have veterans in their blood there at Alabama Home Mortgage, and they make sure to be hip to the latest with the VA home loan programs and some of the quickest turnaround times here in the River region. So call them up today at 567-4223. That's 567-4223. Or visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. There is a difference in mortgage companies. Let Kim and Madeline prove that to you today. NMLS number 1586368, an equal housing lender.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now. This is your roving reporter. Today I'm at Santa's workshop speaking with an elf.
Ho, 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 man.
I guess the pay scale for you elves is pretty good.
We do okay.
And I'll bet you've got a top-notch money man watching after your dough.
Me and all my little elf buddies use David Ernest.
I understand he's the most beloved money man in the Southeast.
Or just about anywhere, man.
And you can call him toll-free at 833-596-7233.
That's right, man. And those last 4 digits spell out the word safe, which is what your money can be if you call David E.
And I see you are busy making some toys. Have you ever had another job here at the North Pole?
I used to work in bookkeeping, handling the money, but I got fired.
Why did you get fired?
I kept coming up short, man.
You know you're going to get a lump of coal in your stocking, right?
Oh, I got your lump of coal right here, man.
Ho, ho, ho!
Start your day a better way with Action 8 News Rising. Get your first look at news happening today, plus your latest forecast and live traffic reports. Don't settle for the same old morning newscast. Watch Action 8 News Rising, weekday mornings starting at 4:30. Don't know an iPhone from a flip phone? You need to watch Action 8 News. Consumer technology reporter Jamie Tucker keeps you on top of the latest technology and keeps you safe from scams and identity thieves. Watch What the Tech, only on Action 8 News.
Now you can add the power of digital advertising to the #1 reach of radio. Let Blue Water's 20 years of local advertising and marketing success show you how. Grow your business with a complete suite of digital solutions, combined with the reach of the most listened to radio group in the river region. Call us or go to BlueWaterBroadcasting.com to find out how we can increase your return on investment. Blue Water Broadcasting, local folks helping local business.
For more information, send an email to digital@bluewaterbroadcasting.com.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ben. If your vehicle has seen better days, fear not, help is on the way. Mr. Ben's Auto Spa Express has added a professional detail shop. Specialized techniques and products are used to get your vehicle back to showroom shape. Hand washing, waxing, stain removal, odor removal, shampooing, minor scratch removal, and more. Mr. Ben's Auto Spa Express, next to Fraser Church on the Atlanta Highway. Come by for a free estimate. Look like you've been to Mr. Ben.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368, an equal housing lender.
When news happens, you'll hear about it first. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go to the phones real quick and talk to Michael Cohen from Cohen's Electronics and Appliances. Michael, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Oh, doing all right. Just talking about UAPs and technological paradigm shifts that could also shift our very understanding of the universe itself. But how are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're got Michael Jackson running. We had a couple in here last week. They bought a television and install and probably are getting a Sonos sound bar. They kind of nixed it, but then they kind of said bring it and let them just look at it. So we're going to do that. I think that's set up for Wednesday. But, you know, he calls and he asked me this morning, he says, is your guy going to be the one delivering that TV? And I said, yes, sir. He says, and who is going to do the install? I said, my guy. And he said, and who's going to put it on the network and get everything hooked up so I can do my streaming? I said, well, my guy. He says, how many guys are you sending? I said, one guy and a helper. And I was like, you've been shopping at Best Buy, right? And he's like, well, I was like, because that's the company that is going to send out 18 people to do the one job. And whereas my guy's going to come out there, he's going to deliver it, he's going to install it, he's going to set it up, he's going to help you with all of your apps, and he's going to make everything stupid simple for when he leaves so that everybody can operate it and they can actually enjoy what they purchased instead of having to have a big 20-step process to get it to Netflix or YouTube or wherever they're trying to go. So, you know, that's a huge advantage of somebody like Michael Jacks doing the install, is that he just makes everything look simple. Even though it's more complicated for you and I.
Well, I mean, I've seen the guy in person. I'm a very happy Cohen's customer myself, and he does work swiftly, does it well, and service is what I think really makes a difference. They're great products, folks, but the service is second to none. You can always shop from home at thinkcohens.com or call them up at 277-8890. Maybe you trust them enough to where, like, I don't even need to drive down. What's the latest TV? 277-8890. But I really do encourage you to stop by the Boulevard here in Montgomery, 2515 Eastern Boulevard. They're open 9 to 6 Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturdays. And be sure to find Michael, one of the team members, be like, hey, I heard Michael on that radio show with Joey and that Eddie fella.
Yeah, and then we'll know exactly which day they called, because if they knew that Eddie was there, I mean, that's like a limited production run.
Well, I appreciate it as always, especially the digging.
All right. Have a great day.
See you, Michael. And again, folks, we're continuing our conversation here with Luis Elizondo. We have to hit our top of the hour break in just a second, but I wanted to get a call in here, Lou. We have Robin on line one. Hey, Robin, you're on there.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. I have a quick question for Lou. There's a group of us out here that, probably across the country, that want to hear a story about Troy that he's not telling.
That's my wife. That's my wife. Lou, I paid you $50.
It's been redacted. I'd love to tell a story, but unfortunately, Troy redacted all of it, and then the Pentagon redacted the rest. So it's a really short story. One day I met Troy, and then the rest is redacted.
Yeah. I know how you feel.
Well, I will say that the whole allegation between the whole poodle and lampshade thing never happened.
Yeah, listen, it was actually a Rottweiler. I don't think it was a.
No,
well,
he's
I just wanted
listen,
to call in and hear something that Troy doesn't have the ending to.
Robin, I will tell you, Troy's a brother in arms, and he's been asked to do things for his country that he'll never be able to talk about. And I only know because I know the line of work he was in. Some of it was extremely dangerous, putting not only himself but his family in direct harm and threats on a continuing basis. Unfortunately, the world of intelligence, you sometimes, especially in human intelligence and counterintelligence, it's not like other forms of intelligence where you can just look at a screen or maybe listen into something, a conversation. You have to be up close and personal. You have to look people in the face, and you have to deal with the consequences when you don't do your job right. And what we consider intelligence collection in other countries, they call it espionage, right? So they'll very quickly put you on trial and put you in jail forever, if not worse, and anybody you're dealing with too. And so people's lives are in your hands. Troy was an excellent, top-notch intelligence officer. What we would call in the business an operator, a guy who got his hands dirty and wasn't afraid to get the job done. And that included in the world of counter narcotics and counterterrorism, which you're dealing with really the worst of the worst. I mean, these people are very serious in what they do, and they're not afraid to turn to violence. In fact, it's their preferred method of operation. So what I can say is that Troy represented some of the best that we had in our organization.
Thank you, both of you. I know there's a trio with Mario in there too.
Oh yeah, I think he's going to call in. Just to get a heads up. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, Mario's a great guy.
For saying that, and I appreciate you guys and all the veterans and what you guys did and are still doing. So I'll talk to you soon. You too, all of you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we did another top of hour break. I wish I could change the radio format and just keep going here, but we'll have plenty of room on the other side of this. Y'all stay tuned. More with Luis Elizondo after this.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. Madison police now say 3 people are dead and not 5 in the shooting at a private Christian school in Madison. The investigation is underway. It is believed the shooter among the dead was a student at Abundant Life Christian School in Wisconsin, but there is no motive uncovered yet. Ousted Syrian President Bashar Assad says he had no plans to leave the country after the fall of Damascus a week ago, but the Russian military evacuated him after their base in western Syria came under attack. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has lost a confidence vote in the German parliament, putting the European Union's most populous member and biggest economy on course now to hold an early election in February. The stocks remain mixed, the Dow dropping 19 points, the NASDAQ composite up 256. This is SRN News.
Our nation's problems have been building for the past 50 years, and they're not going away overnight, which is why we must prepare now for a financial collapse that will affect the entire economy. The good news is there's an easy way to do that. Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe everyone should consider a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group to diversify their IRA or 401k. Gold is a proven bedrock in almost every kind of economy. To learn more, get a free info kit from my trusted friends at Birch Gold by texting the word PREPARE to 989898. Don't wait until decades of government irresponsibility comes crashing down on your retirement. Get your free info kit on gold IRAs from the Birch Gold Group now. Text PREPARE to the number 989898. That's PREPARE to 989898.
Rich Thomas Weather, a service of Riverside Chevrolet Wetumpka. If it's Chevy, it's Riverside. Best price, best selection. Check them out on the web at riversideusa.net.
Our very mild December weather continues. In fact, today and the next couple of days will be warmer than the weekend. I've got today's high right around 73 with a sun and cloud mix. Tonight will be dry in our part of the state. Overnight low temperature very mild, 53. Tomorrow, patchy dense fog early, then look for a sun and cloud mix, very spring-like. Mid-70s Tuesday and Wednesday. On Wednesday, maybe some isolated showers possible and widely scattered showers possible Wednesday night. Noticeably cooler Thursday and Friday with sunshine. 63 Thursday, near 60 Friday. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
For the lowest prices around on flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies, Budget Floors & More is your new best friend. Luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, floor installation supplies, and more with prices lower than the big box stores. Budget Floors & More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey Publix.
1819 News.
The Alabama Supreme Court has refused to hear an appeal coming from a Dothan man who was convicted of 2 homicides in 2023. Coley McCraney was seeking to have a new trial. He was convicted of killing Dothan teenagers J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett. Back in 1999, the 2 teen girls got lost in their vehicle on their way to a party and were last seen at a payphone in Ozark, which was not far from where McCraney lived. Decades later, DNA testing was used to identify McCraney as the murder suspect. The state Supreme Court did not give any specifics for their reason on rejecting McCraney's appeal. The Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals also rejected McCraney's appeal that was presented to them earlier this year. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
Where I was living was not a great place to live anymore. I began to pray for a place to go, praying for all of these things that a 9-year-old would want. I wanted horses, big house with a bunch of people my age. I wanted parents. I wanted a mom and a dad. Before I even prayed it, the Lord had already answered my prayer with the Big Oak Ranch. Who would that 9-year-old be if she never came to the Big Oak Ranch? I would be trying to fight for survival instead of fighting to break a cycle.
Big Oak Ranch, a Christian home for children needing a chance.
An investigation is now underway in Birmingham after a dog returned home with a human bone in his mouth. It's in the same neighborhood where a human skull was found this past summer. The dog's owner reported the dog's finding to the police. The Jefferson County coroner tells WVTM News that DNA testing did not result in any matches to a national database. Police are now trying to track down where that dog found the bone. When it comes to dogs, the Limestone County Sheriff's Office has euthanized several dogs after an El Camont man was attacked last week. 36-year-old Michael Haney is still hospitalized as a result of those injuries. The dog's owner was taking them on a walk and they turned aggressive on Haney, who was jogging nearby. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number 1 in the number 2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Happy holidays from Marguerite's. And every year we do an unbelievable $99 Christmas special. And it's got to be 14 karat white or yellow gold, and it's got to be high quality Marguerite's diamonds. Well, this year it's the best one ever. It's individual 14 karat letters that we've cut out and added a 7-point diamond to on a 14 karat necklace. Impossible. That's right. All the initial diamond necklaces, $99 at Marguerite's till Christmas.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state, while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to News and Views in the Afternoon, or as we're calling this thing online, Joey Clark Live. And again, our very special guest today is Luis Elizondo, and thanks to the gentleman in the middle of your screen, Troy Carrico, he is joining us today. And also, I think we have, the third leg of the tripod here on the line. On line one, we have Mario. Hello, sir.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How you doing?
It's good to. I'm doing great. It's good to be. It's good to be joined with these two animals that I'm looking at right now. We go back a long way, and I have nothing but praise for these two guys.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll say something most people don't know. Actually, Mario was one of my mentors. Long time ago when we were in Latin America together, and I was just some young ops officer, really not knowing anything. Mario was a pretty senior dude, been there, done that with Charlie 30 to 7 Special Forces. Mm-hmm. And he really helped me understand the dynamics and the way intelligence operations operate in Latin America versus, let's say, Europe or the Middle East or Africa, anywhere else. And I will tell you that Mario was directly responsible many times. He was running some great intelligence operations. I won't say specifically what, because I don't want to compromise sources. But there was people don't realize at the time, Panama, where we were at, there was some violence. In fact, there was a young specialist who was killed, murdered. You also had the FARC, which were basically a guerrilla group, operating in certain provinces there along the border of Colombia and Panama. And Mario was critical on a weekly basis, getting information to the ambassador and to the embassy to not only try to find Americans that had been maybe kidnapped, but also to stop attacks from happening. Mario is a very humble man. He also was a senior executive. You'll never hear that from anybody, but he was also a senior he had the full spectrum from tactical, low level intensity conflict to strategic level management of national level counterintelligence issues for an entire department.
And his wife Rose is she's a Spitfire.
Oh yeah.
But, I just to piggyback off what he said, Mario, you've been a mentor to me too. You're a man of great character. You always are even keeled. You have been through the mix, and you've had good times, you've had bad times, but you've always landed on your feet. And I remember when you were working at EPA at the end, and you were miserable there, but you know what? You still were pushing forward, leaning forward, and trying to do great things with the toxic pollution and water element that you were working with. And I can't say enough. I wanted to reconnect the Latin mafia, but I'm from the good side. I'm Italian. So, you guys, you're my Latin brothers.
You guys were the OG mafia.
That's right. We were the OG.
Yeah. we're all paisanos here.
Hey, right, man. You got it.
Yeah, it's good to connect with you guys, and good to know that you're all doing well. And make sure you be thankful we're still alive and standing. And let's enjoy.
Mario, I got to ask you, brother, how are the kids doing?
Oh, the boys are doing great, man. You know, Ryan's he's running his digital marketing company out in L.A. Mario is managing a $6 million restaurant at Disney Springs.
Wow.
As the general manager, very proud of those two guys. They turn out to be great kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good parents.
Yeah.
Good parents, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Good parenting, man. That doesn't happen by accident, brother. You got to invest time. I saw the way you raised those kids, man. I saw it firsthand. That wasn't by chance.
Thank you, man. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Ryan was asking about you the other day.
Oh, yeah. Well, my kids still talk about them those days on the beach there in Puerto Rico. Remember in Isla Verde?
Yeah. Great times. Good memories.
Let me ask you, Mario. What do you think about this whole topic? I mean, I know you're just kind of being brought into the conversation here. I don't want to ambush you, but what are your thoughts on this whole drone issue?
Well, you know what? I actually work with Lino Miani, who's another special forces guy who has a drone company down in Guatemala, and we help train their counter narcotics people and their police to how to use drones and stuff. This is from my elementary knowledge, and every video I've seen does not look like a drone. There's resemblances of a drone, but I don't see a drone. You know what I mean? And that's without doing any deep analysis, meaning, amplifying the screens and doing all the work that we could do with video. So I think there's a lot of people who jump on the bandwagon and like to run with theories, right? Because it attracts attention, and everybody's got a different agenda, right? Like one guy was talking about the other day that there's some nuclear stuff missing, right? Well, as a guy who used to do consequence management at the highest level, if that was happening, all hands would be on deck.
Yep.
You know that.
Right.
So.
Well, NCPC as well, right? So you have National Counterproliferation Center.
Right.
You'd have NCTC. You'd have everybody lottie-dottie. You would think.
DOE, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Mario, as a former special operator yourself, what bothers you about the current drone issue? What's your biggest concern?
It's the nobody has the fact, right?
Transparency.
Nobody has the fact, so everybody is assuming what it is, where it is. There's something up there because people are seeing it, right? It's just how things are being spun around, right? Yeah. And then people grab onto that and they run with it, and a lot of people make money out of that. Other people don't, and some people really want the truth, like us, right? We want the truth. So, my thing is, if there was something nefarious out there that was a real big threat, we would be on that stuff no matter what. Especially if it dealt with any radiation, any type of biological type threat. Man, we don't mess around with that. I don't care who's in charge of the White House. We have professionals that do that for a living, and we don't mess around with it.
So
we have sniffers. We have sniffers all over the United States. We have equipment all over the place that people have no clue.
So did you see the overlay, guys, from Reuters? Came out 2 days ago on the patterns.
Yeah, the heat
and
map.
the small small spikes of radiation discharge, which, as you know, measurements and signatures intelligence, they can pick up any of this stuff, hyperspectral, multispectral. They're the sniffers, as you were talking about, where we can tell when a reactor starts up in another country. Okay, it's pretty proven. But yeah, it's I think you just hit it on the nail head. It's what I think the entire thing that Lou has been championing is transparency. And you remember, I had a commander, and when I was with 2nd Bat Rangers, he said, gentlemen, when you leave open a question, meaning you decisively communicate, you leave it up to other people to finish the story. And that's really kind of jacked up, but that's what we're doing right now.
That's right. You're 100% correct.
Now, I gotta ask with all three of y'all here. I mean, also, like, there's no better way. Eddie can tell you all about me, my sidekick here. But having you three and listen to y'all reminisce and get back together, I feel like such a candy ass at this moment. Like
you're a pogue. We call you a pogue. You're a pogue.
Like, I get paid to be a jackass on the radio and just talk. But with all three of y'all here, I gotta ask.
I consider you lucky.
Fair.
I'm scarred.
But like,
oh, man.
We love covering geopolitics on the show. So like, I just throw out Jelani taking over Syria. Like, I just want to say, go. Like, what the heck is going on in Syria right now from y'all's perspective?
Guys, go ahead. I'll finish up.
I'll give you my perspective. The biggest problem we don't like is strategic surprise. Obviously, the Assad regime was never anything that we endorsed. They've always had a very close relationship with Russia. I'm not surprised by the move for him to, like every other overthrown dictator, will run and hide instead of fight. I would expect nothing less from him. You could see by the way he treated prisoners and the children literally being incarcerated. I think like a 5-year-old kid. I'm not at all unhappy that Assad is gone. What I am concerned is what will fill the vacuum.
Right. Absolutely.
Mario, what do you think?
Well, all the indicators were there if you were paying attention.
Yep.
So, Turkey conducted some activity that tipped us off.
Yep.
That said, okay, something's going afoot. So if you were tracking that, you could immediately start putting the pieces together.
Yep.
The minute Assad started communicating back to Putin, right? And we got those communications. Don't think we don't have. We have. You know what I mean? So fast forward to today. I agree with everything Lou said. I hope this guy that is leading this rebellion. So far, he's done everything by the book, and he's on the side of caution because he knows that Syria needs a lot of money to be rebuilt. And if you isolate the rest of the world, then what good is all that territory if you can't really run that country, right? So what we're doing as a country, which every intelligence agency, we're reaching out to those guys and we're establishing lines of communication, right? That's very important. That's critical. Critical for the State Department, it's critical for CIA, and it's critical for us since we have troops on the ground, right? For us, that's a big plus, and then let's hope he stays the course where he's going to have an open society that is composed of all these religious groups, and they can live in harmony. Syria is a beautiful country. It has been around for 5,000 years. Beautiful culture. It can offer a lot to the world, especially that part of the world.
Yep.
And sometimes tyrants turn around and become humble, and they lead their nation. This is a time for this guy to show the world that, he's got an opportunity here to do something great in Syria. So, the clock is ticking. Time would tell. But this is a good time for freedom in Syria. And God bless all those people out there who've been suffering for so many years. And I can tell you that I take that personally because my father was a prisoner in Cuba. He was tortured. He was, so I feel for all those people, especially the ones who were jailed for so many years and tortured.
Yeah, both Lou and Mario's dads were fathers were at the Bay of Pigs. They're both they're true patriots in a great sense. My take on it is this: three things are in play. Israel has created a buffer zone. They moved into the Golan Heights. They're inviting settlers to come settle that area. They want to keep that buffer there. And then on top of it, Turkey is the country that gains the most out of this. Turkey is really set and poised, Joey, to gain a lot of wasta, as we call in the Middle East, wasta, mojo with that. And then where does Russia fit in now? I mean, where's Russia? Tartus is basically their only warm water facility, heavy maintenance facility point and logistics point for their Navy. And then I heard that the Israelis put a bomb right on the perimeter of their air base to, hey, we can hit you, so.
Man, it's just, I don't know. For a long time, I think it's been well known that Erdogan there in Turkey has these neo-Ottoman aspirations.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's
to your point, Mario, about it does seem like this guy Jelani, whoever's running things there now, he hasn't gotten rid of the whole government. It's not like debathification. It does seem like he's trying to keep it on the rails for the moment. And to your point, Lou, I hope it is not the next monster. We chop off the head of one, and here comes the next one, because that's correct. The last thing we need. It does seem also like this transition, not to get too political here, but I do politics on the show. It does seem like this is the longest transition ever, and it's like everything the Biden administration wanted to do, and they're just doing right now in this last month, and it's really resetting the board in a way that it wasn't even before November 5th. I mean, I just find this, is it irresponsible, or is there continuity of vision behind the scenes? I'm not even sure at this point.
I'll add. Go ahead.
Yeah, I could tell you from some inside sources.
Sure.
The administration has been working the issue for about, really hard since October, when the war started with Israel. Right, that was a turning point in everything in the Middle East. And while Israel was pounding Gaza, behind the scenes, especially our guys from three-letter agencies, those guys are busting their ass trying to set certain things in play, and, it's funny, as you said, all of a sudden everything's coming to play here at the fourth quarter with 2-minute warning, right? That's not a bad thing for America, and it's not a bad thing for the next administration if they play it right. You know what I mean? So that's a good thing for America.
It's almost though like they're spiking the guns. It seems like sometimes for Trump is what I'm not trying to take that, but it seems like some of these counterintuitive moves are, troubling. But you're right, it's opportunity. Sorry, Lou. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
I was going to say, with every crisis comes opportunity. Unfortunately, I do see a bit of a fire sale here. I'm not president, but I think some of the decisions to pardon certain individuals, is it doesn't help the people's trust in the current administration, because the administration said under no circumstances will these individuals be pardoned, and of course the very thing they do is they pardon them. So again, this goes back to faith and confidence in our establishment. This is not a political thing. It doesn't matter if it was a conservative or a liberal or anybody in between or an independent. When you tell somebody something like that and you go against that, then what else that you have said? Look, as a former special agent, when you are putting a witness on a stand, if they lie about one thing, their credibility is shot. Sure. You got to throw out the whole testimony. And when you have a government official that's supposed to represent the will of the people saying things and then doing the opposite, that doesn't help with public trust. And that's my concern, because the world sees it. It's not just, oh, well, I decided to go back on my word. No. What else are you doing that with? It just, you're not saying it, right? And the world sees this, and that's my concern. Look, for me, my biggest issue has always been the Afghanistan withdrawal. It was a crime what occurred there.
It was.
To have to rely on our guys, special operators, to go back in and fix a problem that the administration failed to recognize. We knew this was going to happen. It's honestly special operations 101. The moment you leave in a way you do, if you don't do it right, you leave a vacuum. Yep. You have a collapse, just like the fall of Saigon. So this is not new. We knew going in that if we didn't do this right, we were going to have this blood on our hands. And when you have, images for the world to see of desperate people, so desperate they're clinging onto the skin of a C-117 and they're going to die. There's no way they're going to survive that.
Yeah,
that represents all of us, man. And that for me, emotionally,
that's humanity.
We have not held people accountable for that, and if the rest of the administration is kind of going that path, then it's really hard for me to say something nice.
Yeah, and I hope that the folks incoming are serious about especially their transparency efforts across the board. And I mean, a lot of great things people have said, whether you're talking about Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, or
look, I'll share with you right now. I'm not going to say names, but there are people right now in that cabinet that are very, very pro transparency. And I'll just leave it at that. And I think you're going to see a tremendous difference. These are very senior people at the highest levels of the new government. And they're, love them or hate them, they are committed to get to the truth on a lot of things. And it's not just UAP. It's not just the drone thing. There's a long laundry list. And these guys are coming in. And I think they really see, because look, the boss isn't going to get reelected again, right? He can't. So I think this is his chance if he wants to really leave a legacy. And I think if he can do it, I think he's got the right team that's beginning to coalesce that want this to be something different and really drain the swamp as they originally said they would do.
Well, beautiful. Well, Mario, I appreciate you calling in and joining us over the phone, sir.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate you guys also.
Thanks,
hey, love you, brother. Man.
Love you, man.
Got to come out.
You guys take care, man. God bless.
You too, brother.
And I mean, there's so much to this story. And again, folks, we have Luis Elizondo over the stream. We have Troy Carrico here in the studio. Eddie's here. How you doing, Eddie?
Doing well, man.
Yeah, you look good today. I like that Santa beer shirt you're wearing. Yeah,
it's the right time of the year to drink a beer with Santa.
Indeed. Now, the question I just asked, Lou, how much does this help with the transparency about UAPs? Because I learned from your book that this is not just within, say, under the umbrella of defense. Like some of this might show up with what Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to have authority over. It's pretty much spread out around the entire government, right?
Well, yeah, because look, anytime you have a technology that can defy Earth's natural effects of gravity, right, and have the ability to operate the way they do, there are potential advancements in our understanding of physics. There's potential advancements in technology. Let me put this into lay terms. During the space race, 10 years, 1 decade time from when we said we're going to put a man on the moon, there were over 6,200 life-changing industries, not products, industries that resulted from that one single space race with the Russian. Things like the LED light bulb, CAT scans, right? Velcro, things that we take for granted now that have long outlived their original intended purpose and have really been beneficial for our species. Look at that as a comparison to last time, and now, make this exponentially, potentially more valuable to our species. You're talking about breakaway technologies that has the ability to improve humanity potentially, like never before in the areas of medicine and transportation and energy and everything else. Now, unfortunately, with that, like every innovation, right, it's a double-edged sword. You can also use it for bad purposes, right? So you want to be careful about that, because once the genie's out of the bottle, the genie doesn't get put back in. Just like, the atomic age and the nuclear age, once one country has it, it's pretty much fait accompli before everybody else does too. It's just a matter of time. So we do have to pay attention to that part of the equation as well.
Yeah, I think it was Margaret Thatcher who said to Ronald Reagan when he was about to scrap all nukes with Gorbachev, Ronnie, you can't uninvent something. Like, come on now. And I've been saying on the show, and I mean this economically and regulation, but more generally, the broader conversation about the paradigm shift is if you set the American people free, and part of setting people free is, I think, telling them the truth.
Yes.
I think we'll do amazing things. Like the people that are going to do it don't even quite know exactly the amazing things they're going to do. And it does seem like the incoming president has when I see Elon Musk there as his right-hand man, I'm like, well, that's the one guy who seems to actually be going for the gusto. I mean, I think this is again, a paradigm shift. And I just love your angle on this, Lou, because reading your book, and again, folks, the book is imminent, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Go buy it on Amazon, like right now. Not seriously. You can pause
really
this, go buy it right now.
Really good.
It's almost like call to adventure after call to adventure. In particular, I've got to have you mention your father and talk about him a little bit. I know Troy just mentioned him in passing there.
Yeah.
Like he was, I mean, such a unique character. Number one, it sounds like from your memoir, but he was also training you up for certain reasons you didn't know until after the fact. For those who haven't read the book, what's going on here?
Yeah, I certainly had a unique childhood. That's for sure. My father was a revolution. He was first fought with Castro against Batista. Batista was a dictator in Cuba. And then when Batista turned communist, my father went against Batista and joined the Brigade 2506, which is actually, I'll share something with you.
Yep.
Very often, but
It's on his wall. I've seen it.
it's,
There it is.
this is kind of their call sign for the Brigade 2506.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Castro had referred to them as traitors and worms.
Yeah.
So I grew up with this idea that we were retaking the island at some point in the future, and my involvement with other groups like Alpha 66 and
That's the way.
Radio Free Cuba, Radio Mambi, and all these. During the 80s, it was really in the 90s was very interesting. The CIA had one of their largest field stations actually in Miami, outside of Coral Gables, where I went to school. And there was always, things going on. I went to school with Brothers to the Rescue before the plane got shot down. It was this hotbed of mystery and intrigue. But at the time, I didn't know it. I was a kid. So, when I'm going through quote unquote Boy Scout to the Everglades to, disassemble AK-47.
Like the Hitler Jugend, but in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I come back and I'm talking to these kids. I'm like, "Oh, so what badge did you get?" And they're like, "Oh, we got our,
Pathfinder.
how to make cookie badge." And I'm like, "You guys didn't disassemble an AK-47?"
That's right. Grenade training.
Yeah. So my father, he was a very complicated man. He suffered terribly from what we now know as PTSD. Yeah. At the time, it wasn't really recognized. It was, just kind of one of the things you kind of brushed under the carpet. My father lived life fast and hard. He was working for the agency in various different capacities as a facilitator, sometimes sending weapons down to Latin America. But his time in prison really did something to him. And so my father had what he called the love affair of the century with my mother, but that was only good for, 30 minutes out of the day. The other 23 and a half hours are pretty volatile. And so, my father, when he passed away, I had an incredible, I'll share this with you. I shared it with a few people now. I talk about my mother in the book, which is something for me, very, very intimate. But my father died a couple of years ago on Father's Day. And I knew my father was dying. He wouldn't admit it to me, but you can tell. Somebody for 80 years, well, in this case for 50 years, but he died when he was 80. So I had a chance to go on a trip with him down to Florida. And I asked my father, we were probably halfway down, maybe somewhere in Kansas. I said, "Dad," and I said it almost flippantly, so I feel kind of bad about it. But I said, "Dad, what do you think is the greatest threat to humanity?" And he looked at me and he said, "Son, corruption." And I said, "Corruption, like financial corruption?" He said, "No. Corruption is the act that someone does when they give up a personal virtue, a value that they have, and exchange it for something else like money. So whether it's financial corruption, religious corruption, governmental corruption, it's still corruption." And he said, once you do that in government, you start to chisel away the very foundation of what democracy is. And my father would happen to know a little bit about that. And so it's a very slippery slope from democracy to tyranny if you're not careful. And so that for me is something that I have always, recently especially really listened to, that corruption, because if you look at it from a governmental perspective, that's really at the heart of a lot of the issues we have today with government.
Yeah. And it's just, well, thank you for telling us that. And also, when I got to the part about your mother, I'll share an intimate thing as well. My mother in 2015 succumbed to brain cancer. So as you were describing, the way you described it is I felt it, man. And it's a rough thing, a rough way to see somebody you love so dearly go. But it's also like you have those moments, at least I do, where you look back and your life's changed, you've accomplished certain things. And I mean, in particular, maybe you've had the chance to talk to them. What do you think your parents thought of this whole UAP thing? Well, I mean, what was their reaction to this sort of thing?
Wow. Well, my mother, I think, always kind of knew, even though I never really talked to her about it. She was a strange, incredibly gifted individual, also tormented. But she always had this weird knack, this like sixth sense. She always knew when I was up to something, either good or bad. She just knew it, like most mothers, I guess. My father didn't understand any of that. He was very put off by it. He would tell me later on, after my mother passed away, stories about my mother. She had this weird sense thing that really made him uncomfortable. He didn't like to talk about it, didn't understand it, but he acknowledged it. He's like, look, you always consider your mother a bit of a weird kind of a witch. I mean, not in a bad way. Just that she knew things, right? I'm like, Dad, that's a horrible thing to say. He's like, no, I don't mean it that way. She somehow just knew how to get something done that was almost impossible. There was no chance in hell it was going to be able to be successful, and yet she knew exactly what to do and how to do it. I had a very dysfunctional family when I was younger. So my younger years, particularly middle school years and high school years, were brutal for me. Not at all a good experience. Made a lot of dumb mistakes, because I was angry, trying to get attention from the opposite sex, doing whatever I had to get attention from the teachers, and sometimes it wasn't good attention. Fortunately, I had some really good teachers there that saw something in me and were able to kind of get through this thick skull and help put me on the right path. Junior ROTC was a huge motivator for me. I often say the military saved my life, and JROTC gave me a military career. It's not for everybody, but for me, it gave me a sense of purpose. And it was at a time when we were doing controversial things in the school system. We were called busing, where we take certain demographics of kids and put them all in a different school. And so it was a big hodgepodge where I went to school, big public school. And ROTC was great because they didn't care about what color you were, what religion you were, what your socioeconomic status was. Man, you were equal. Everybody, man, we all bled red and we all wore green. That was it. And there was no division of race. And I think that's why I liked it in the military so much, because it's the same thing. You talk to most military vets, there's no racism there. We all got smoked equally, man. The drill instructor would smoke you either way. So you didn't care what religion somebody was or cultural background. We were all brothers and sisters in arms, and that's what mattered. And so that's for me, I've been very attracted to.
And what struck me is like you had enough of an adventure before the adventure you describe in your book really gets going. And I want people to go, again, buy the book, go read the book, go listen to the audiobook again. It's Imminent Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Get it on Amazon right now. But just on a personal basis, without giving away the story out, because people can read it, what is it like thinking back, okay, you're sitting there being slowly read into this program, you're being asked to leave your analytical priors at the door, to fast forward, you're testifying in front of Congress, you're on Joe Rogan's show of all people, being able to explain this extensively. I'd imagine that's got to be jarring in a way when you look back and fast forward all these years. I mean, what has this journey been like?
In some cases terrifying. Not because of me, but because of my family. There's a very dark side of this that I don't have to tell either one of you, but there's some individuals out there that no matter what you do or never what you say, they're not going to like you. And some of them may be psychologically unstable and they will threaten. And some of these people have a means, a capability to do something. I've had several security incidents. That's why one of the reasons why I do live out in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, with 6 German Shepherds, and heavily armed. Because that's the consequence of when you want to come out and have a public discussion about something. Not everybody necessarily wants to hear what you have to say or likes what you have to say, and you have to respect that, right? I'm not asking people to agree with me. I'm not asking people to like me. What I am asking people to do is just don't threaten my family, right? That's right. What I'm saying shouldn't be that disruptive, where you feel like, you want to threaten my life and those of my family. And that goes with anybody in this topic. There's even people that I don't agree with that are working in the government that are actually working the UFO topic, the former director of Aero, for example. But I don't want him threatened. I may disagree with him professionally, but personally, I harbor no ill will towards him or his family. He deserves to be able to live in safety and in peace like everybody else. And this is nothing new. And then you have, unfortunately, from the government side, there are some elements that are not happy at all with what I did, or more importantly, how I did it. And so, I'm always under constant threat with that. When are they going to come and raid my house or try to swat me? Or when are they going to try to take my security clearance away like they already tried? And I had to fight that, right? It's just what we call administrative terrorism. It's these things to try to diminish somebody's value or contributions to a conversation. And you do it by putting out propaganda, by discrediting the person, lying about them. Look at my colleague Dave Grush, what happened to him when he went public about a year and a half ago. Within 24 hours, they leaked his medical information.
Yep.
Just really, that's the kind of stuff for me that keeps me up at night.
So, and I hesitate saying this, but one of the things that Lou, Mario, myself, when you're trained as a human intelligence officer, you're taught the good, the bad, and the ugly, aren't you? And we know how to incentivize. Like, we had incentive lockers with drugs, with what do you want? How can we recruit you? And the thing is, when you think of that kind of philosophy, Lou, and that kind of culture that we grew up in, it kind of, and you are like I like me and Joey and Eddie, we're very philosophical. What does this mean existentially for us? And what you just described, and I know this, I know you were ostracized. I know you were run out of town. I know they tried to take your clearance just like they did me one time. And the thing is, you have to go before a special administrative court to get it done. And it's really hard to do. And it's very scary. And here's the thing. That tells you that if people are willing to do that, then there must be something it's like the witch in the Wizard of Oz, when the good witch, when she says to Dorothy, don't give those ruby slippers up, they must be very valuable, or she wouldn't want them so badly. Right? And it's like, firsthand, you've had to move, you've had death threats, you've told me the whole kit and caboodle. And so what you're doing is you're proving to me and to the rest of America that you are a champion of truth and of transparency, and willing to do so. It's too late now. As you said, the genie's out of the bottle, right? And you're just leaning forward. And I'm going to tell you that.
Troy, remember what's on the floor of the CIA building the moment you walk in?
The museum, man. The museum.
Right, it's incredible. Set you free. Freedom at the end of the day. Truth and freedom are inextricably tied. Right. You can't have one without the other.
This is true.
So it's imperative that at least we are honest with ourselves. And you're right. There is a lot of us who've had to do things that can kind of get you jaded a little bit. And maybe as we get a little older, certainly in my case, we get a little bit more introspective. There was a time where, I was paid to proverbially speaking, tear human beings apart. And I'd like to think that spending the rest of my life trying to put them back together, right, in a way that's
cathartic, very cathartic,
right? And so there's part of that motivation to me that I have to pay this forward, because I've reaped the wonderful benefits of being a senior intelligence official and having all the accoutrements afforded to me. There comes a time where sometimes maybe you have to, doing the right thing doesn't necessarily seem very patriotic at the time, but it's actually the most patriotic thing to do.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on, because I got other breaks here and other sponsors to talk about. But Lou, I really appreciate the time and the work you're doing. I hope it continues despite all those corrupt forces coming your way, for sticking your neck out there and fighting back and putting things back together.
Let me also get together, brother. Let me also say to you absolutely, Troy, but also thank you to you. You guys are creating right now a platform for your audience. And ultimately, at the end of the day, your audience is the most important part of this equation, because your audience is the one that's demanding answers from Congress. They're the ones that are demanding answers from the media. They're the ones that are asking questions around the water cooler and the dinner table. And so thank you for what you're doing, because you're giving people a voice that otherwise wouldn't necessarily think they had a voice. So thank you very much for doing that. And Troy, as always, man, honor and privilege, brother. Anytime.
I love you, brother. Yeah, I love you, man. Yeah, and I'll get back with you after this. I have some ideas I wanted to run by you, okay?
10-4. You got it, brother.
You're the man. All right.
Take care, guys.
Appreciate it, Lou. You too, sir.
You got it.
Always. What a great guest. Thank you for that, Troy.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And,
It's my privilege and honor to be able to share him. So
yeah, he's and also getting Mario on the phone at the same time.
They're tied together in so many ways, and it's listen. Nothing happens by chance. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Whether you believe in God or not, I do. I believe in that nothing happens in happenstance, and it's a small world. You talked about this earlier, that things come full circle. Hell, I think we lived in the same apartment complex. When I first moved here, and I didn't even know you. So.
Right. Yeah, it's a small world indeed. We got to hit this break. This part of the program first brought to you by River Region Contracting, and they're at River Region Contracting. Todd Clark and the team there are ready to help you with that roof of yours. Could be an asphalt or metal roof. Either needs to be inspected on a regular basis. Manufacturers suggest like every 3 to 5 years for basic preventative maintenance, but you might as well do it every year. That's what Eddie and I have been telling folks because, well, think of the Alabama elements and the climate that we have here. You can go through all 4 seasons in one day in some parts of the year. And so if you are worried about the roof, if you actually are feeling a little trouble, don't have peace of mind, have River Region Contracting come out and inspect it. And here's the great news. Their inspections are always free, as are their estimates and their insurance specialists, so they can walk you through that claims process, make it a swift and easy experience. So again, River Region Contracting. Call them at 356-8635. That's 356-8635. And be sure to tell them that that Joey fellow on the radio sent you.
He may not know whether he's coming or going. But whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings, 6 till 9, and afternoons, 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number 1 in the number 2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Rich Thomas Weather is brought to you by Clark Heating, Air and Plumbing. Fall is officially here, and it's time to get your system ready for the winter. Call today about the advantages of the Clark Club membership to be sure you're covered. Call 277-2125 or go to clarkcomfort.com. Better call Clark. Alabama certification number 09098.
Well, hi, everybody. Our almost spring-like temperatures in the middle of December continue, and even the nights are mild. Tonight, mostly cloudy, dry in our part of the state, overnight low 53. Tomorrow, some patchy dense fog early. Otherwise, look for a sun and cloud mix with a high in the mid-70s Tuesday and Wednesday. On Wednesday, some isolated showers are possible, widely scattered showers on Wednesday night, and then noticeably cooler 63 Thursday with sun and near 60 on Friday. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Thank you for voting ASC Credit Union the best credit union in the River Region 6 years in a row. As we celebrate our 70th anniversary, we are proud to be at the top of the list for the best credit union in the hearts of the communities we serve.
Hi there, I'm Madeline Cannon with Alabama Home Mortgage. Getting pre-approved is the first step towards home ownership. People are often scared or nervous about taking that first step, but I'll tell you, it's nothing to be scared of. At Alabama Home Mortgage, we will take the first step and every step along the way with you. Call us at 567-4223. We will gather the information needed to tell you exactly what you qualify for. After a call to Alabama Home Mortgage, you will know what price point to shop for, what down payment is required, if any, and what your monthly mortgage payment will look like. We take all the guessing out of it. Then, when you find the house you want to make your home, you are ready to make an offer. Along with your offer, you will submit your Alabama Home Mortgage pre-approval letter. This shows sellers that you've already taken the steps necessary to ensure that you qualify to purchase their home. Wait no longer. It's time to take that first step together. Call me at 567-4223 or start the process online at myalabamahomemortgage.com.
That's Alabama Home Mortgage because, folks, there is a difference in mortgage companies. NMLS 1586-36-8, Equal Housing Lender.
Are you happy with your IT support company? Do they resolve your company's computer issues quickly, or do they leave you down and frustrated? You need your computers working and problems resolved quickly and permanently. GTI is different. GTI has a high standard of affordably supporting and protecting businesses like yours since 1999. Call them now at 819-4650, 819-4650, or visit gtinow.com.
Help solve unsolved crimes by watching Action 8 News. Look for our exclusive I-Team reports as we work with Central Alabama Crime Stoppers to solve murder mysteries and put criminals behind bars. Victims' families are counting on you to watch Action 8 News. Ever miss an Action 8 newscast? Catching up is easy with the free Zeem app. Watch the news live on your phone or see newscasts from the past 3 days. Download Zeem. Search for Zeem in your app store today and stay on top of what's happening from Action 8 News.
This is your roving reporter. Today I'm at Santa's workshop speaking with an elf.
Ho, 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 man.
I guess the pay scale for you elves is pretty good.
We do okay.
And I'll bet you've got a top-notch money man watching after your dough.
Me and all my little elf buddies use David Ernest.
I understand he's the most beloved money man in the Southeast.
Or just about anywhere, man.
And you can call him toll-free at 833-596-7233.
That's right, man. And those last 4 digits spell out the word SAFE, which is what your money can be if you call David E.
And I see you are busy making some toys. Have you ever had another job here at the North Pole?
I used to work in bookkeeping, handling the money, you know, but I got fired.
Why did you get fired?
I kept coming up short, man.
You know you're going to get a lump of coal in your stocking, right?
Oh, I got your lump of coal right here, man.
Ho, ho, ho!
No one wants to wait on service for an overhead door. With 20 years in the industry, you now have access to the best with All Access Overhead Door. All Access Overhead Doors offers prompt professional service at affordable prices on all service and new garage doors for residential and commercial locations. All Access Overhead Door serves the river region and can take care of whatever you need when it comes to your overhead door. Remember, you have access to the best. All Access Overhead Door. Call and schedule an appointment today. 320-2440. And like them on Facebook. They sell the best and service the rest.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number 1 in the number 2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
The premier place the river region turns to for news, weather, traffic, and opinion. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Let's go right to the phones and talk to Chad from Prattville Carpet. Hey, Chad, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, man, I'm just holly and jolly and all that merry good stuff today. Ray's gone, so everybody's in a good mood. And man, it is time to come in and find some flooring if you want a good price this week.
You got like a great deal there at Prattville Carpet right now?
You got that right. It's the Ray is gone. And what he don't know won't hurt himself.
So, folks can always call y'all up, right? Direct 285-8117 and have y'all come out and measure.
Yes, they can. They call us up. It starts with a phone call. We'll come out and see what we need to do, get the scope of the job, and I mean within an hour have you a quote and ready to go. So it's just that easy.
And it's not just carpet, folks, or Prattville Carpet. It's any sort of material you need for a resurface job. I'm partial to that luxury vinyl plank. That's vinyl a really plank, cool.
Absolutely,
cool
so
plank.
Easy to clean and easy install, and a good thing about it is we're going to see it from start to finish. And so the same person that comes out to measure the house is the same person that's going to give you the quote, the same person that's going to explain how the flooring is going to go in, the same person that's going to schedule the installation, and the same person that you're going to work with from start to finish. And so if there's ever any questions, you know who to go to, you know who to ask for, and we see the job all the way through.
Again, folks, that number 285-8117. When you call 285-8117, be sure to say, "Hey, I heard Chad on the radio. He said Ray's out of town."
That's exactly right. Nobody else is gonna take care of you the way I will. You got it.
Well, I appreciate it, Chad.
Man, y'all have a good afternoon.
Man, what a show. This has flown by.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Absolutely flown by. Let's go to Papa B. Hey, Papa B.
What a great show. I mean, to tell you, this is awesome. Very, very interesting. And, I'm humble enough to acknowledge that, I'm just a learner. I'm not even a Padawan learner. I'm just a low-rent learner when it comes to this kind of stuff. But extremely, extremely interesting show. And I'd love to have, them back and other guests like them, when you can. Very informative. One of the several questions I have, about it all. I have, for instance, if these, what do you call them, UAPs? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Okay, so not UFOs, but okay. But so if it takes this kind of energy to keep them aloft, and defy the laws of physics, why aren't they measuring the energy? Or if there is no energy, I guess they have mastered some other realm of dimension, I guess. So anyway, very, very interesting show. But guys, thanks a lot for letting me call in.
Appreciate
and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, Papa B. Yeah, we're gonna have a hard time following this one tomorrow, but we're gonna try, folks. We'll kick it off with Judge Napolitano. And before I forget, this part of the program brought to you by Smokehouse Pit Barbecue. And oh man, that place is great. It's great for lunch. It's great for dinner. They have the original barbecue recipes back there at Smokehouse that made them original, or made them famous in the first place. But of course, at Smokehouse Pit Barbecue, not only do they have amazing barbecue items, and especially those sides. Oh man, the sides are so good. They're a destination for breakfast. You might think, wait, barbecue and breakfast? Yes. I believe they're open for breakfast Tuesday through Sunday, bright and early in the morning. I think at like 6:30. Really? And the cheese grits there,
you said that,
the best.
You've said that.
The good stuff. Oh, I'm going to keep saying it. It's like, I don't know how much butter and cream they're throwing in there, but like the spoon stands straight up like Excalibur.
Yeah.
And of course, they can do custom made biscuits, breakfast sandwiches, breakfast bowls. I mean, it is serious, great down home breakfast. So y'all check out Smokehouse Pit Barbecue today. You can just stop by there, Main Street in Millbrook, and be sure to tell them you heard about them here on the radio show with Joey and Eddie. Now, normally I would say at this point, what did we learn today?
Another 2 hours?
Yeah. It's quite a perspective on the world.
He just texted me on Signal and said, I would be happy to come back if there's more that you want covered. So we'll do it after the first of the year. And then I'd also suggest we need to get Mario on. Mario's he's a pretty interesting cat. He's worked around the world in very clandestine operations like I have, but much more experience than I am. So,
okay.
Yeah, it'd be worth, I think the listeners would like that.
Oh, good conversation.
I would like that. Thank you, Troy. And thank you, Eddie.
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been in the phone all day. Like, I feel like he's doing counterintelligence.
Some of us are realtors. We have work to do.
Yeah, I know.
And he's manning the phones. He's multitasking.
Well, emphasis on manning those phones. And on that ambiguous note, we got to get out of here.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusada, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.